The first sequence this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26, Save the Elder or the Younger. Ren Xiaosu opened the door of his clinic early in the morning. He looked around the surroundings. This was probably the first time in all his years in the town that he felt the morning air was still fresh. After the disaster, the sky was covered with a strange haze most of the time. Zhang Jinglin, a teacher at the school, said that this was because a large amount of smoke and dust particles rolled up into the sky during the disaster, which not only blocked the photosynthesis of the sun, but also made the climate extremely cold and acid rain often fell. It was not until the past few decades that the situation gradually improved, and the sun could be seen most of the time of the year. Ren Xiaosu's clinic was just opposite the grocery store. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Wang Fuge across the street coming out with 2 freshly baked sweet potatoes in his hands. Xiaosu, eat sweet potatoes. Ren Xiaosu couldn't help but sigh. Before this, it was difficult for him to ask this old Wang to give him a needle for sewing clothes, let alone a needle. Even giving him a thread for sewing clothes was impossible. And now, this stingy guy actually took the initiative to give sweet potatoes. Ren Xiaosu looked at Wang Fuge's jubilant look. He thought that when receiving gifts, he should always pay attention to the courtesy of reciprocity. He smacked his lips and said, "I don't have anything to give you in return, but I have a lot of anesthetics. How about I give you an anesthetic injection? Is an anesthetic injection appropriate?" Wang Fuge's face suddenly darkened. He asked, "By the way, you haven't gone out to collect herbs these days. Do you still have that medicine?" "Yes, anti-inflammatory medicine, anesthetics, cough and expectorant medicine, we have them all," Ren Xiaosu said with a smile. "I mean, do you still have that black medicine?" Wang Fuge was a little embarrassed. "Didn't you just buy it?" Ren Xiaosu asked knowingly. "I bought it for the big shot in the fortress. Don't pretend to be stupid here. If I didn't deliver the medicine in, you would have such a clinic for nothing." Wang Fuge complained, "To be honest, I only wanted to give it to Chen Heidong at first. I don't know how it was delivered to Boss Luo." At this moment, Wang Fuge himself couldn't figure out how this black medicine was delivered layer by layer, and he didn't know how many times it could be used when it was delivered to Boss Luo. Here, Ren Xiaosu took out 2 small porcelain bottles. He exchanged a small bottle of black medicine yesterday to treat Yan Liu's fever. Now there's still enough for 2 treatments, so he had already packed them separately, 1,200, not a penny less. "I have a bottle here that I need to deliver," Wang Fuge glared. "How dare you charge me so much money? You can take it or not," Ren Xiaosu said as he prepared to put the black medicine back in his pocket. As a result, Wang Fuge did not hesitate, and decisively grabbed Ren Xiaosu's arm, handing over the money and the goods, and finally Wang Fuge even said thank you. "Thanks from Wang Fuge, +1. Hey," Ren Xiaosu thought that Wang Fuge was quite interesting. He gave him 2 thank you coins in a row. But Ren Xiaosu felt a little pity. Why did his thank you coins keep running out? Now he only had 4. But he weighed the pros and cons. If he wanted Yan Liu and Sister Xiao to live a better life in the market town, it was necessary to get closer to the barrier. And he didn't give the black medicine for free, so why not do it? Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu sighed. He could only see if he could get more thanks after he had the blessing of the clinic doctor's identity. Ren Xiaosu's top priority now was to go out to collect herbs. He was a cautious person, so he had to do a full set of pretending, otherwise it would be bad to arouse other people's suspicion. When people mentioned him, they would say, "So-and-so's supernatural ability was to materialize an iceberg out of thin air and destroy the city, so-and-so's ability was to cut down the mountains, and Ren Xiaosu's ability was to make that medicine." This would be too embarrassing. After Ren Xiaosu walked into the wilderness, he couldn't help but look at the place where he buried the pistol. He was relieved only after he made sure that no one had moved it. This was now his greatest reliance, and he must not make any mistakes. Even if he now had a strength of 4.5 and an agility of 4.1, a person was still not as fast as a gun. When Ren Xiaosu returned to the clinic with a bamboo basket on his back, he saw Sister Xiaoi looking at a couple who came to consult with an embarrassment. When Sister Xiaoi saw Ren Xiaosu coming back, she immediately cast a look of help at him. "Xiaosu, hurry up and treat them." Ren Xiaosu threw the bamboo basket on the ground and asked, "What, are you two injured?" "I tell you, we came to the right place." "That's great," the man said. "We are not injured, but my wife is 4 months pregnant. This morning, she suddenly had a little pain in her stomach. I was afraid of any accidents, so I came to see you. I want to see if you can treat it." Ren Xiaosu was petrified at the time. Although he now runs a clinic, he doesn't know how to treat this kind of disease. Nowadays, there is no distinction between men's and women's medicine. In the minds of the refugees in the market town, if you are sick, you should go to the clinic. Ren Xiaosu was in a dilemma. He had just boasted, and he was facing the expectant eyes of the two couples. He couldn't slap himself in the face on the spot, right? Ren Xiaosu tried hard to recall the lessons that Mr. Zhang had taught in the school, as well as the books he had read from Mr. Zhang. He tried to search for ways to deal with it. What would a doctor usually say to a pregnant woman and her family? Ren Xiaosu pondered for a moment. Should we save the adult or the child? The couple. The man was furious. "You are a fake doctor, right? My wife just has a stomachache, and you actually asked me to save the adult or the child? The problem is that I'm only 4 months pregnant. Where should I put the child if I save the child?" Ren Xiaosu thought, it seems to be the case. This time he sighed and said, "I'm so sorry, you two. I was wrong just now. Let me tell you this, I really can't treat gynecological diseases, and it would be outrageous for me to continue fooling you." The previous doctor didn't know how to do it either. He was actually a charlatan. It has to be said that he could kill a damned person without blinking, but Ren Xiaosu really couldn't do such a thing as lying to a woman in labor. Ren Xiaosu continued, "My suggestion is that you go to the school and ask Mr. Zhang to borrow some books on this subject. Let your elder sister eat and drink well on a daily basis. Whether she can give birth smoothly depends on God's will. I won't cheat you two of your money. And you two should not buy medicine from other people. I know that you can't take medicine when you are pregnant. There is a high probability that it will cause the baby to be deformed. If you don't believe it, you can go and ask Mr. Zhang." The couple looked at each other. They didn't expect Ren Xiaosu to say that. The man thought for a long time and said, "I feel that you are better than the previous doctor. Last time I was sick, he was afraid that he would not buy medicine. As a result, the illness did not get better after taking his medicine. It was all thanks to me that I got through it." The pregnant elder sister stood up and smiled. "Thank you, doctor." "Thanks from Kinjayajia, +1. Ren Xiaosu was stunned. He did almost nothing this time, but he received a thank you for nothing. Chapter 27, Really Fragrance. Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt a little confused. He just told the truth, but he got the other party's thanks inexplicably. In his and Yan Luoyuan's concept, you can only get sincere thanks if you give something to others. Ren Xiaosu used to think when he was listening to the class in the school, Mr. Zhang Jinglin described the past human civilization so well, but why did human civilization take thousands of years to reach that height, and the speed of the collapse of this civilization was much faster than the construction? Today, this couple made Ren Xiaosu seem to realize something, but he couldn't explain it clearly. That day, Ren Xiaosu asked Sister Xiao to take down the flag hanging outside the clinic and embroider the words trauma. He did a lot of cheating, but Ren Xiaosu had the choice to do it. Ren Xiaosu made a decision. From today on, he would treat the diseases he could cure, and forget about the ones he couldn't cure. As a result, Ren Xiaosu was shocked that no injured patients came today. All the patients came with minor pains and illnesses that he could not treat. But this was not the reason for his shock. He was shocked that he told all the patients the truth, and did not use any black medicine in the whole day, and the number of gratitude coins increased to 10. Ren Xiaosu sat in the clinic and fell into confusion. What the hell was going on? What he didn't know was that perhaps everyone had been resentful of the previous Dr. Yutong for a long time. After Ren Xiaosu acted like this, those who had come to see the doctor spontaneously promoted him. I think that ruthless Ren Xiaosu is much better than the previous bastard Yutong. He will never prescribe medicine to make money for diseases he can't treat. When some idle people heard this, they thought, wow, there is such a thing. Then they came to the clinic to join in the fun. They were all having fun, but Ren Xiaosu was very upset. He earned a few gratitude coins in this morning, but the number of people who came to see the doctor was as high as 10 times the gratitude coins. Some had headaches, some felt their faces suddenly became bigger, and what made Ren Xiaosu speechless was that there were people who came to him for fortune-telling. But Ren Xiaosu would definitely do what he decided to do. He persuaded the people in the market town to leave, just as he had explained to the two couples before. Later, the people in the market town found that Ren Xiaosu really didn't charge random fees for medical treatment. In the past, they had a rather ruthless impression of Ren Xiaosu, because Ren Xiaosu, who was not very old before, wanted to gain a foothold in this market town with Yan Luan, so they had to fight bravely and fiercely with others to have a glimmer of hope. Later, everyone's impression of him became the medicine seller. Now, everyone subconsciously believes that if there is really an external injury, they can go to the clinic to find Ren Xiaosu for treatment as soon as possible. This kind of reputation came so suddenly that Ren Xiaosu felt very puzzled. Sister Xiaoi went to the market town to buy vegetables at noon with a basket. During this period, Ren Xiaosu and his family's life became richer, and their savings reached 3,400 yuan, so their living conditions also rose with the tide, and they could also go to the market town to buy some good vegetables. Sister Xiaoi would even occasionally buy some fine salt and pigskin. The taste of fine salt is quite different from that of coarse salt, while pigskin is used to make oil for cooking. There is a pig farm outside this market town, and those domestic pigs have also evolved, but as long as they are castrated when they are still young, they will be very docile when they grow up. It must be said that humans are indeed the species that can adapt to the environment and are best at using the environment, no doubt about it. The good meat of these pigs is usually sent to the refuge barrier, and only the corners will be left in the market town, and very little. In the past, Yan Luan dreamed of entering the refuge barrier himself, and one of the biggest reasons was that he wanted to eat meat. Sister Xiaoi came back to the clinic carrying a basket of vegetables. As soon as she entered the door, she said with a smile, "Oh, Xiaosu, you don't know, people in the market town are praising you so much?" Ren Xiaosu was surprised. "Really?" "Yes," Sister Xiaoi picked vegetables with a smile. "Our Xiaosu has become a doctor. He will definitely find the best wife in town in the future. When you get married and have children, I will take care of the children for you." Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt awkward. "I haven't thought about such things." Sister Xiaoi was immediately unhappy. "You are so old, you should think about it. I also bought some peanuts today. I don't know where the people in the market town dug them from. I will cook some for you later." Yan Luan came back from school at this time. Now he can have lunch at home like other classmates. In the past, he would bring 2 potatoes with him in the morning and eat the potatoes in school at noon. After he entered the room, he saw peanuts in the basket and picked up one to peel and eat. As a result, his hand was slapped away by Sister Xiaoyu. "There is still dirt on these peanuts, you are not allowed to eat them." Yan Luan slammed the table angrily. "You are so beautiful, why don't you let me eat peanuts?" Sister Xiaoyu smiled again. "Eat, eat." Yan Luan said to Ren Xiaosu while peeling peanuts, "Brother, there are a lot of people gathered outside the school today. Mr. Zhang didn't let them in during class, but they all rushed in as soon as school was over. I don't know what's going on. Do you want to go and see?" Ah! Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment, and he suddenly had an ominous premonition. At this time, a familiar figure walked in angrily from outside. It was Mr. Zhang Jinglin from the school. Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up. "Mr. Zhang is here, have lunch at our house." "Eat shit," Zhang Jinglin said angrily. "Why don't you treat the disease you can cure? Why do you let them come to me?" Ren Xiaosu told the couple before that if they don't believe it, go ask Mr. Zhang, or borrow some books about pregnancy protection from Mr. Zhang. Later, Ren Xiaosu thought this method was very useful, so he said this to every patient this morning. Zhang Jinglin said with great sorrow, "It's okay for ordinary diseases, but they even come to me for athlete's foot. You don't even know the smell of that guy's shoes after he takes them off. Fortunately, I run fast." Ren Xiaosu smiled awkwardly. "I was thinking that you are knowledgeable." Zhang Jinglin was about to collapse. "I am a teacher. Can I cure the disease that you can cure? If you push patients to me again in the future, I will leave Yan Luan with endless homework." Yan Luan, who was peeling peanuts. "The conflict between the two of you is none of my business." Ren Xiaosu grabbed a handful of peanuts and stuffed them into Zhang Jinglin's hands. "Don't worry, I won't do it again. I really won't do it again, I promise." Zhang Jinglin thought for a long time, and finally peeled the peanuts and went back to the school. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28, The Return. As night fell, Ren Xiaosu felt that everything in his life seemed to be moving in a better direction. At this time, he looked at the 10 gratitude coins that had been accumulated in the palace, and thought that it would be great if he could unlock the weapon earlier. Yan Liwen beside him was sleeping soundly. When Ren Xiaosu went to substitute for the class this afternoon, the students wanted Ren Xiaosu to tell more stories about wolves because of the incident of wolves in the market town, such as what to do when encountering wolves, such as how to escape. However, Ren Xiaosu did not want to talk about this, and continued to tell the students some knowledge of survival in the wild. He felt that if these children encountered wolves in the wilderness in the future, they would definitely be in danger. The physical difference between humans and today's wild beasts destined such an ending, which could not be taught. Instead of teaching them some knowledge about hunting wild beasts, it would be better to teach them how to obtain water and food to sustain their lives if they did not encounter wolves. Being killed by wolves is helpless, and it would be too unfair to be starved to death. The content of the lectures did not meet the students' expectations, and the worst thing was that the class was delayed. This caused the students to be very dissatisfied with Ren Xiaosu, and they even went home to complain to their parents. What they didn't know was that they didn't dare to provoke Ren Xiaosu, but would his parents dare to do so? At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly heard an unusual noise outside the courtyard wall. The owner of the sound was very cautious, but people like Ren Xiaosu who have been in the wilderness for many years must be alert to any slight movement, otherwise they might die. He immediately blew out a kerosene lamp in the house and quietly moved towards the courtyard. Ren Xiaosu hid under the wall and listened carefully to the movement outside. Suddenly, someone jumped up from outside the wall, holding his hands on the wall, and then he used his hands to support his body, and then he jumped into the courtyard. In mid-air, the person looked down at the ground and saw Ren Xiaosu's curious eyes looking at him. The next moment, he saw Ren Xiaosu suddenly lower his waist and retract his arms, as if he wanted to gather all the strength in his body, and then suddenly burst out. This punch was like a mountain splitter, and it hit the crotch of the uninvited guest directly. The uninvited guest wanted to dodge, but he was quite skilled. He only needed to put his legs together and use his knees to hit Ren Xiaosu, and he could easily resolve this crisis. But what he didn't expect was that Ren Xiaosu's speed was much faster than he thought. Wait, The uninvited guest lost his balance and fell to the ground in pain, covering his crotch and screaming. At this time, footsteps sounded outside, and it seemed that more than one person came. Ren Xiaosu looked at the person on the ground calmly. The clothes on the other person's body could not help Ren Xiaosu identify the other person's identity. The next moment, 2 more figures jumped in. Wait, fuck. There were 2 more people rolling on the ground. Ren Xiaosu frowned. The skills of these people, well, they were okay, but if it was not good, there was not even one person who could last a round under his hands. There was a knock on the door, and a familiar voice said, "Open the door." Ren Xiaosu remembered this voice. It was the officer who led the private army to search the entire market town. He suddenly realized that these people were the private army in the fortress, but Ren Xiaosu couldn't figure out why these people were so weak. In fact, it was not that the other party was weak. Although the private army in the fortress was poorly trained, it was not something that ordinary people could easily control. These private soldiers had heard that Ren Xiaosu was a famous ruthless person, but they thought, how powerful can a refugee be? Sister Xiao and Yan Liwen, who were originally sleeping in the room, put on their clothes and came out. What's wrong? Go back to the room, Ren Xiaosu said, and went to open the door for the officer. He wondered why these private soldiers came in over the wall in plain clothes. This was clearly a counterattack to search for himself, the most suspected person in the lost gun case. Perhaps this private army was now eager to report to the higher-ups, but was afraid of Boss Luo. If they found it, it would be fine. Boss Luo was not the only one who could control the number 113 shelter, and Boss Luo might not think much of Ren Xiaosu. But if they couldn't find it, they would have to face the wrath of Boss Luo. According to normal people's thinking, after the first search, and Boss Luo had said hello, most people would not have thought that the private army would come back to search. If he really brought a gun back when he collected herbs last time, he would be in danger this time. According to Wang Fuge, the family of the factory manager he killed was also a big force in the shelter. Ren Xiaosu frowned. The other party was breaking into a private house at night, and this was the second time he was searched. He was right in this matter, but outside the shelter, who could he reason with? Fists are the truth, and his fists are not big enough. Ren Xiaosu beat up 3 private soldiers in one breath. He felt that the other party would definitely not let it go. It must be said that after this incident, Ren Xiaosu reminded himself to be more cautious and not to underestimate anyone. In fact, the officer standing outside the door with a dozen people was also furious. He couldn't accept that his soldiers couldn't even deal with a refugee, and he had to come in to rescue him. If this matter gets out, where is his face? Therefore, there must be a result today. Just when he was about to order his men to kick the door of the clinic opened by itself. Then, all the soldiers outside the door fell into confusion. They saw a big silk banner wrapped around Ren Xiaosu, and they saw that the silk banner read, "Miraculous Hands, Luo Lan." The officer was silent for a while, and then laughed inexplicably. "What is this? Silk banner protecting the body?" Exclamation mark. Ren Xiaosu was on full alert and carefully observed the officer's expression. He was mainly afraid that the officer was too impulsive and would seek revenge when he saw the banner protecting him. As a result, the officer walked around him and went straight inside. "Search." Ren Xiaosu followed behind and said, "Didn't we search last time?" When the officer saw the soldiers still rolling on the ground in the yard, his face darkened. "A bunch of trash." He turned to look at Ren Xiaosu. "My name is Wang Konggang. If you want to find Boss Luo to vent your anger, you can say my name." "That's not possible," Ren Xiaosu said with a wry smile. "You didn't do anything." Wang Konggang looked at Ren Xiaosu carefully. His soldiers searched for a few minutes and came out to report, nothing was found. Wang Konggang led the team away without saying a word. Before leaving, he turned around and looked at Ren Xiaosu with a smile. "It would be great if you were born in the barrier. It would be better to come here to serve as a soldier than to be a bunch of losers under my command." Wait, Ren Xiaosu was suddenly stunned. The factory manager was called Wang Donggang. Could he have any relationship with this Wang Konggang? No wonder the other party was so persistent in tracking down the murderer. Chapter 29 The Sorrow of the Times. When Ren Xiaosu learned that the officer's name was Wang Konggang, he was shocked. He was worried that this guy would keep biting him. At dawn, Ren Xiaosu opened the door and saw Wang Fuge sweeping the grocery store with a broom. When Wang Fuge saw Ren Xiaosu, he put down the broom and came over. He lowered his voice and asked, "What happened last night?" "Nothing." Ren Xiaosu shook his head. "The private army in the fortress still suspected me and searched again." "Bah," Wang Fuge said indignantly, "they treat us refugees as thieves every day. They said that we are the people protected by Boss Luo, but they dare to search for the second time." "Okay, stop acting." Ren Xiaosu looked at Wang Fuge speechlessly. "Why are you so angry for me?" Wang Fuge laughed. "Don't worry, nothing will happen. I have sent the new black medicine in." At this moment, a man ran over quickly from outside, with blood on his arm. The man shouted when he was still far away from the clinic, "Doctor, save me." Perhaps because of the excessive bleeding, the wound scared the man, but Ren Xiaosu knew at a glance that the guy's injury was not serious. In the market town, nothing serious means not dying. It must be said that the refugees have a very open-minded outlook on life. Except for life and death, nothing is a big deal. Ren Xiaosu glanced at him and said, "Come in, your injury is not serious, you won't die." "How did you get this injury?" "I was going to the factory, but on the way I found that I forgot to bring something and turned back. I found someone stealing things in my shack. I wanted to catch him, and he stabbed me." The man explained. "Doctor, am I really fine? I lost so much blood." "It's okay," Ren Xiaosu said calmly. The man felt a little relieved when he heard that he was not going to die. Ren Xiaosu took another look at his wound, thinking that he had not used the new anesthetic he got yet. Should he use it? Ren Xiaosu looked at the man and said, "We have anesthetics here. After applying the anesthetics, it won't hurt at all to treat the wound." "Really?" The man was stunned for a moment. "Does it cost money?" "Nonsense," Ren Xiaosu said unhappily. "How can I give you such expensive medicine for free? Look at your wound, it's at least 4 inches long. If you sew up such a long wound stitch by stitch, you will die of pain." Ren Xiaosu was telling the truth. The wound this time was too long. He estimated that the black medicine had to be applied carefully, otherwise the amount of medicine would not be enough at one time. So, he was really worried that this guy couldn't bear the pain. Sister Xiaoyu came out with an iron plate. In the iron plate, there was a syringe and a small bottle of anesthetic. This syringe was still in the clinic before. Medical conditions were limited and there were no disposable syringes and needles, so they had to be disinfected every time they were used. Logically speaking, this was definitely wrong, but what could Ren Xiaosu do? All he could do was to disinfect it properly, such as roasting the needle over the fire for a while longer. This time, Sister Xiaoyu waited until the needle was cool before she was ready to give the injection. But just when she was about to give the injection, she was in a dilemma. Xiaosu, should the anesthetic be injected outside or inside the wound? They had never used this anesthetic before, so Sister Xiaoyu wondered if it would be more effective if the anesthetic was injected directly into the wound. Ren Xiaosu was also stunned. He had never thought about this. I don't know either. The man who was listening to them almost peed. So you have never used anesthetics? Do you know how to treat injuries? The man had heard that Ren Xiaosu could treat external injuries, and now Ren Xiaosu had an unusually good reputation in the town, so he came to the clinic as soon as possible. But now it seems that it is not the case. Where should I inject, Xiaosu? Sister Xiaoyu asked. Ren Xiaosu glanced at the patient's face, then pondered, why not hide him in the legs, so he won't run away later? Patient. Task completed, reward 1.0 strength. Task, treat 20 patients. However, in this day, although Ren Xiaosu completed the third serial task of treating 10 patients, his gratitude points dropped from 10 to 8. Many people did not express their gratitude even if they were cured. However, Ren Xiaosu felt that his life was particularly fulfilling now. He saw patients during the day, taught classes in the afternoon, and chatted with Sister Xiaoyu and Yan Liwen in the yard at night. He dug the land in the yard and prepared to plant some vegetables. One of his biggest wishes before was to have a yard and plant some green onions, garlic sprouts, green vegetables and the like. Now, Ren Xiaosu felt that his strength had almost doubled that of a normal adult male, and his muscles had become stronger again. Ren Xiaosu asked Guang Dian in his mind, what are my current strength and agility attributes? Guang Dian replied, strength 5.5, agility 4.1. Ren Xiaosu did not speak. It seemed that his own attributes were relatively balanced at this time, and he probably would not suddenly become a muscular man. Yan Liwen suddenly asked, brother, why don't you treat all those patients? That's all money. Ren Xiaosu glanced at him and said, I can't treat them. Then the doctors before couldn't treat them, but they still treated them. Yan Liwen thought for a while and asked, we can't learn from him. Ren Xiaosu explained, look at his current situation. When he got into trouble, did anyone help him? People have to have a bottom line. But if we get into trouble, there won't necessarily be anyone to help us. Yan Liwen muttered in a low voice with his head down, they won't help us either, right? Then why should we be so kind to them? These days, many people are eager for us to get into trouble. Ren Xiaosu looked straight at Yan Liwen. He knew that Yan Liwen was still young, and his worldview was still in the process of being formed. The environment Yan Liwen was in destined him to receive too much malice from the outside world. Ren Xiaosu admitted that Yan Liwen was right. In this era, everyone is selfish. Selfishness is a natural thing. Even the intention to harm others seems to have become a natural thing. But Ren Xiaosu must let Yan Liwen understand that others are others and they are them. Liwen, remember this, Ren Xiaosu said solemnly, don't let the sorrow of the times become your sorrow. Yan Liwen seemed to be lost in thought, while Sister Xiaoyu was looking at the two brothers with shining eyes. She suddenly felt that as long as Ren Xiaosu is still with Yan Liwen would never go astray in his life. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside, and someone was surprised. The band is back. Did they go to barrier number 112? Why are they back? Yes, and the man who was their guide is gone. Ren Xiaosu looked up, and he suddenly remembered the girl in the baseball cap with perfect firearm skills. Thanks to the head of the NATO group, Bailey Jilio, and Barcaray for becoming the new leaders of this book. Thanks to these familiar IDs for returning here, and thanks for your support. Chapter 30 The Sick Ren Xiaosu. The band is back? Ren Xiaosu was a little confused. It would take at least 2 months to go from here to barrier 112. Now, if we calculate the time when the band left, it is probably only about a week, so, the other party did not reach Barrier 112 at all, and even did not reach the foot of Jingshan Mountain. There should be no danger along the way. The only danger is the wolf pack, but the time when the wolf pack came here was staggered with the band. If the band really encountered the wolf pack, they might not be able to come back. After all, the wolf pack is not afraid of gunfire now. When thinking of the wolf pack, Ren Xiaosu felt a little distressed. He talked about the wolf pack with Wang Fuge yesterday. Wang Fuge revealed the news he got from Chen Haidong, the manager of the market town, that the wolf pack had suffered heavy casualties in this ambush of the private army. The entire wolf pack went directly to Barrier 111 and hid in Yangshan. It is estimated that they dare not come here again. However, Ren Xiaosu did not think so. The wolf pack had left before, and now they are back just as well, and they have become more ferocious. What caused these wolf packs to evolve again? Ren Xiaosu didn't know. Ren Xiaosu looked outside through the window of the clinic. He saw the refugees in the market town coming out of their homes and watching silently. They were curious about the band, and now they realized that the band might have encountered something, so they were even more curious. The band left in 4 off-road vehicles, and now only one of them was still driving slowly. In the car sat the star of the barrier, Luo Zinayu, and 3 private soldiers, while the others followed on foot. Their clothes were torn. Yan Liwen asked curiously, when they left, they were all white and clean, but when they came back, they became the same as us. Although Ren Xiaosu and his friends' lives are better now, there is still not enough water. The refugees have always been equal in terms of water resources, and the refuge barrier has very strict management of this. So if there is extra water at home, Ren Xiaosu and Yan Liwen basically give it to Sister Xiao to wash, and they only use a little water to brush their teeth. The so-called brushing teeth is to use a willow branch with some coarse salt to scrape the teeth for a long time, and then rinse the mouth. Now, Ren Xiaosu and Yan Liwen, who were swarthy, were quite happy to see that the band members had become like them. The girl in the peaked cap with perfect gun skills was also walking behind the SUV. There were holes in her clothes, but Ren Xiaosu observed carefully and found that although the girl looked as embarrassed as the other band members, her steps were still light and steady. From this point of view alone, the girl in the peaked cap was much better than the private soldiers who were accompanying her. Of course, this was also within Ren Xiaosu's expectations. After all, how could someone with perfect gun skills be outdone by those private soldiers? The star Luo Zinayu in the SUV ordered, quickly report to the barrier and don't let these refugees look at us like monkeys. After receiving the order, the private soldiers raised the black muzzles of their automatic rifles to the refugees who were watching. One of them said viciously, "Go back to your pigsty." Seeing that the private soldiers were ready to get serious after being embarrassed, the refugees immediately hid back. And, Luo Zinayu said coldly, "Find that Wang Fuge." The noisy and boiling voices in the market town gradually subsided. Everyone dared to whisper in their own shacks. If chatting with one family was not enough, they could also chat with the neighbors through the shack's tarpaulin. Anyway, there was no sound insulation. Ren Xiaosu and Yan Liwen leaned on the window and looked outside. They saw that the band members were divided into 2 groups. One group went to find the refuge barrier to go through the customs process, and the other group went straight to Wang Fuge's grocery store. "Brother, why are they looking for Lao Wang?" Yan Liwen asked curiously. "Maybe they are looking for Lao Wang to settle accounts." Lao Wang recommended a guide, but the hunter who served as a guide did not come back with him, so maybe this hunter made some trouble, which led to their embarrassing early return, Ren Xiaosu roughly judged. Ren Xiaosu smacked his lips, feeling a little regretful. When the guide left the market town, he looked at Ren Xiaosu with a proud look, but he didn't expect that this look would be a farewell forever. Ren Xiaosu saw this group of people knocking on the door of Wang Fuge's grocery store. Wang Fuge slowly opened it from the inside, and seemed very calm. Originally, Ren Xiaosu was worried about Wang Fuge, but seeing that he was so calm, he felt that he didn't need to worry about him. The people in the off-road vehicle also got off. Luo Zinayu was wearing white casual clothes, or it was originally white casual clothes. She stared at Wang Fuge and asked, "What kind of guide did you find for us?" Wang Fuge asked curiously, "What's wrong?" He was really a little curious. Normally, he should be an old hunter, and he shouldn't make such a low-level mistake. Why are these people so angry? What else? Luo Zinayu said in a cold voice. He led us in the wrong direction before we even entered Jingshan. We spent 3 days without finding the correct location. You can drive into Jingshan. Many people know this because there is a gravel canyon there. It should have been a riverbed, but it dried up for some reason. Ordinary cars can't pass this road, but it's not difficult for off-road vehicles to pass. So, the guy didn't lead the band directly to that road. Then what? Where is he? Lao Wang asked in a daze. He died before we found the road, a private soldier said coldly. As a hunter in this area, he didn't know there was danger in the water. When he went to the river to wash his face in the morning, he was bitten on the face by something. When we found him, he was already dead. And there were so many fierce monkeys on the road he took us. We almost couldn't come back. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. No, this was very wrong. He had never heard that the fish in the river nearby would bite people. Was it a fish? Wang Fuge leaned against the doorframe of the grocery store. Oh, so that's what happened, but I may not have time to help you find a new guide recently. I have to do something for Boss Luo. In fact, Boss Luo didn't arrange anything for him at all. He just wanted to tell the other party that he was Boss Luo's man. The private army frowned, and even Luo Zinai was stunned. They didn't expect that the person they wanted to deal with was actually Luo Lan. Wang Fuge said leisurely, I told you a long time ago that if you want to go there you must find Ren Xiaosu. The one with a disease in his brain. A private soldier frowned, the guy who fantasizes that he is a doctor. Wang Fuge suddenly had a toothache. He pointed to the window of the clinic opposite. Maybe you can't imagine that he is really a doctor now. Luo Zinayu. Private soldier. Everyone looked in the direction of Wang Fuge's finger, just in time to see 2 dark faces lying on the window of the clinic, looking at them curiously. To be honest, Wang Fuge was also a little emotional at this moment. Yes, how did this kid become a doctor by accident? Chapter 31. A new door. Is he really a doctor? Someone in the band asked with a slightly puzzled and unbelievable tone. Did we misunderstand him last time? Luo Zinai was even more confused. Wang Fuge thought that there was indeed no misunderstanding, and he had only been a doctor in the past 2 days. But he didn't intend to say that. He wanted to distance himself from it in the first place. You said I introduced a mentally ill person to you before, but I didn't. You see, he is really a doctor. No, let me think about it. A private soldier thought for a while and said, what did he say when we met him last time? Congratulations, father and son are safe, 6 pounds and 6 ounces. Someone said. Yes, how could they say that the father and son are safe? The private army said angrily. Can such a person in your market town become a doctor? Wang Fuge saw that they actually remembered Ren Xiaosu's original words, so he explained, our medical conditions are not very good, but it is true that he is indeed a doctor in our market town. If you don't believe me, I will ask someone to ask for you. Wang Fuge walked forward a few doors and knocked on a door and asked, is Ren Xiaosu a doctor in our market town? The person who opened the door was stunned for a moment. Yes. How is his medical skills? Wang Fuge asked. The man gave a thumbs up. Who in our market town doesn't praise Ren Xiaosu now? The band members fell into deep thought again. They turned their heads and looked at the clinic. There was no one in the window of the clinic. You said that only he can lead people across the mountain. Luo Zinayu calmed down. Yes, Wang Fuge thought for a while and said with a smile, in fact, I dare not say whether he can take you there or not, but if he can't, then no one in this market town can take you there. You are almost praising him to the sky? Luo Zinayu sneered. Tell him that he has been requisitioned, and we will set off again after resting. No, you can't tell me this, Wang Fuge said with a smile. If you want to requisition him, you have to ask Boss Luo if he is willing. Boss Luo? Is he related to Boss Luo? Luo Zinayu was stunned. I don't know the specific situation, but it can't be requisitioned casually, Wang Fuge explained. Luo Zinayu sneered twice. At this time, the person who is responsible for the customs declaration had returned and could pass. The gate of the refuge barrier was slowly pulled up by the people above with hinges. Luo Zinayu led the team into the refuge barrier without saying a word. Wang Fuge patted his chest. In fact, he was also afraid that the other party would come after him. Fortunately, he had a relationship with Boss Luo because of delivering the black medicine. If he hadn't been taking advantage of the power of Boss Luo today, he would probably have been skinned alive. In fact, Wang Fuge himself might not be very clear about how much power Boss Luo has in the refuge barrier, but every time he took advantage of the power of others, he deeply felt that this big banner was really useful. Wang Fuge went to knock on the door of the clinic and wanted to discuss this matter with Ren Xiaosu, but no one paid attention to him after knocking for a long time. Wang Fuge muttered, "I'm afraid someone is holding a grudge against me." The next morning, Ren Xiaosu opened the door of the clinic on time to prepare for business, but as soon as he opened the door, he saw Wang Fuge standing at the door with a smile on his face. Ren Xiaosu said unhappily, "What's the matter?" "You see, I had good intentions when I recommended you to them," Wang Fuge said. "That's an opportunity to enter the barrier. Do you know how many people outside want to enter the barrier? Everyone wants it. Why don't you want such a good opportunity?" Ren Xiaosu was unhappy. "I'll draw a route map for you, and you take them there, so that you can enter the refuge barrier." "I won't go." Wang Fuge shrank his head. "I don't have your skills, and what will happen to my daughter if I go in? I'm so old, I can still find a partner outside and spend some money, but no one will look down on me if I go in." Ren Xiaosu said, "You have a daughter, and I also have Liwen and Xiaoyu. What will happen to them if I go in? If you recommend me to them again, I will let Liwen and Xiaoyu eat and drink at your place. I'm doing this for your own good." Wang Fuge said angrily, "If I were 20 years younger, I would really go. For my own good." Ren Xiaosu sneered, "Thank you, your whole family." Wang Fuge also got angry. "Thank you, your ancestors." Thanks from Wang Fuge, +1. Ren Xiaosu. He roared at the palace in his mind, "This is also considered thanks?" Exclamation mark. "And it's a sincere thank you? I think you are sincere." Ren Xiaosu never thought that his 9th thank you coin would come from this. It's amazing. However, Ren Xiaosu actually understood that although Wang Fuge wanted to get close to the star in the barrier, he did recommend him to the other party out of kindness. But the problem is that Ren Xiaosu really doesn't want to go in. If the condition is to change Yan Liwen to go in, he might agree. Ren Xiaosu thought about it and said seriously, "Old Wang, I'm serious again. I can't abandon Liwen and sister Xiaoyu and go in alone, so don't recommend me to them again." Wang Fuge was also tired. Okay, I got it. Don't worry, as long as Boss Luo doesn't ask, they can't take you away. This time you're gone for more than 3 months. Who will provide Boss Luo with medicine after you leave? Okay, just know it, Ren Xiaosu said. At this time, a man came over and said to Ren Xiaosu, "Doctor, I want to see a doctor." "I won't talk to you first, the patient is here." Ren Xiaosu turned and walked into the clinic. Ren Xiaosu sat behind the table and said to the man, "Where are you injured? Let me see." "I'm not injured, I just feel pain in my balls," said the man. As soon as he finished speaking, the nurse Xiaoyu next to him blushed. Ren Xiaosu felt a little awkward. He tried to be more professional and asked, "Does it hurt in your testicles?" The man was stunned. "It hurts whether I finish or not." Ren Xiaosu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What a mess every day. After he persuaded the man to leave, he actually got another thank you coin. Okay, no matter what the symptoms are, just give the thank you coin. Now Ren Xiaosu has 10 thank you coins in his hand, and the day to unlock the weapon doesn't seem too far away. One of the reasons why Ren Xiaosu doesn't want to be a guide now is that it is more convenient for him to get thank you coins in the market town. Who'll thank him on the way with a band and the private army? I don't know why Ren Xiaosu is always looking forward to the weapon and wants to know what it looks like. Sincere thanks are so rare, this weapon must be good. Sorry for posting late. Chapter 32 Dreams are the opposite of each other. Maybe the band was in such a mess this time that they took a long time to rest and didn't come out for several days. According to what they said, the band and the private army will definitely go to Jingshan again, it's just a matter of time. What's in Jingshan? Ren Xiaosu always felt that this group of people wanted to go to Jingshan more than being invited to perform at the number 112 shelter. Jingshan covers a vast area. I'm afraid no one has really explored the interior of Jingshan yet. What news did the managers of this barrier get? In the early morning, Yan Liwen went to class with a new school bag that Sister Xiaoyu had just sewn for him, feeling very happy. But when he arrived at the school, he found something wrong. Why did all his classmates look back at him when he entered the door? Yan Liwen didn't want to pay any attention, so he just sat down at his seat. As a result, all the classmates gathered around him. "Li Yaoqian, A strong girl from the grocery store's old Lee family said to Ren Xiaosu first, "Lin, can you go back and talk to your brother and ask him to stop staying after class?" That's right, the stupid son of Wang Fuga's family also complained. He stays after class every day and no one has time to play. Yan Lin was also struggling with this matter. He said helplessly, if what I said was useful, he would have stopped staying after class a long time ago. Everyone was unhappy to hear him say this. Li Yaoqian sneered, "Mr. Zhang hasn't paid your brother's salary. I heard that your family is not short of money now. Why is he so concerned? What, does he want to take over the school? He is just a substitute teacher. It is not his turn to tell us what to do." Ouch! Li Yaoqian cried out in pain. Yan Lin stood up and kicked Li Yaoqian on the hip. No one expected Yan Lin to suddenly get angry. Yan Lin sneered and said, "My brother taught you all the knowledge that can save your life in the wilderness. It's okay if you don't appreciate him, but you are still making up stories about him behind his back. If anyone talks about this again, don't blame me for being rude." Yan Lin is 14 years old this year, and Li Yaoqian is already 16 years old. Now the two are about the same height, but Li Yaoqian is stronger than Yan Lin. When Wang Fuga wanted to introduce Li Yaoqian to Ren Xiaosu, Yan Lin said that Li Yaoqian was very strong. At that time, Yan Lin really didn't lie. However, at this moment, the other students looked at Yan Lin as if they saw a smaller version of Ren Xiaosu. The fierceness that erupted from the two was exactly the same. Although Yan Lin often choked people on weekdays, he looked much gentler than Ren Xiaosu. Why did he become like this when he mentioned Ren Xiaosu? At this time, everyone realized that Yan Lin also had a kind of wildness in his bones. Li Yaoqian wanted to stand up and fight back, but when she saw Yan Lin's look, she gave up in disappointment. "I didn't frame him, I said the truth." At this time, Yan Lin was the first to start to struggle, because he was the one who didn't want Ren Xiaosu to delay the class the most. Mr. Zhang from the school walked in from the door with his hands behind his back. "Why are you all gathered together? Go back to your seats and prepare for class." All the students hurried back to their seats. Mr. Zhang looked very amiable after school, but during class, he was stricter than anyone else. Wang Fuga's silly son Wang Daling sat down next to Yan Lin. He was also Yan Lin's deskmate. Wang Daling secretly looked at Yan Lin. When he saw that Yan Lin seemed to be still sulking, he wanted to find a topic to diffuse the embarrassment. "I had a dream yesterday. I dreamed that my father found me a stepmother, who was not good to me." Yan Lin glanced at him. "It's okay, dreams are the opposite." Wang Daling was delighted when he heard this. "That's right." Yan Lin thought for a while and said, "I think he may have found a stepfather for you." Wang Daling. That night, Ren Xiaosu and the others were having dinner. After dinner, they were going to review the lessons that Yan Lin and the others had learned today. As a result, at this time, they saw Wang Fuga angrily leading the crying Wang Daling into the clinic. "Ren Xiaosu, come out." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment with a bowl of rice. "What's wrong? Ask your Lin what he said to my son." He cried as soon as he got home. Wang Fuga was furious when he thought of what his son had said just now. Ren Xiaosu looked at Yan Lin, who sat on the chair obediently. "I said that Lao Wang might have found him a stepfather." Ren Xiaosu. With a wow, Wang Daling cried even harder. Ren Xiaosu looked at Yan Lin. "This is your fault, Lin. How can you say that to him?" He turned around and comforted Wang Daling in a gentle voice. "Don't worry, your father will at most find you a stepmother, but things like a stepfather will never happen." Wang Daling was stunned for a moment. "Even a stepmother is not okay. Keep crying." This made Wang Fuga angry. "Thank you so much for explaining it for me." Thanks from Wang Fuga, +1. At this time, Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up. Although this thank you was a bit painful, it was also a thank you coin. I don't know why, Ren Xiaosu always felt that a magical door was slowly opening to him. There are only 11 thank you coins now. Suddenly, Wang Fuga seemed to remember something, and his anger instantly disappeared. He reminded Ren Xiaosu and said, "Chen Haidong, it was the thing that the manager of our market town accidentally mentioned yesterday. He said that strange things seem to have happened in other barriers, and it was the same in our barrier number 113. What was it?" Ren Xiaosu asked in a deep voice. He didn't seem to know the specifics. Wang Fuga said, "I'll tell you when I have news. Anyway, be careful about everything. These days, Any strange things are usually not good things. After Wang Fuge left, Yan Liwen asked curiously, why did old Wang say that these days, any strange things are usually not good things? Ren Xiaosu thought for a while and said, maybe it's because our definition of good things is too narrow. Things that are good for us are good things. Are we wrong to think so? Yan Liwen asked. Although he took more classes than Ren Xiaosu, to be honest, he was not as hard-working as Ren Xiaosu. In the past, when he was lazy, Ren Xiaosu would hold a book he borrowed from Mr. Zhang and read it all the time. Sometimes Yan Liwen would think, since Ren Xiaosu is so good, why should he work hard? Ren Xiaosu looked at Yan Liwen and said, remember, it's right to think this way. Things that benefit us are good things. It's okay to be selfish. I want you to be a person with a bottom line, but I don't want you to be a good person. Chapter 33. What are you waiting for? Every time Ren Xiaosu taught Yan Liwen, Sister Xiaoyu would watch quietly beside him. She suddenly envied Yan Liwen a little. If someone had taught her in the past, she might not have taken so many detours. Brother, can you teach me more about reason in the future? Yan Liwen said excitedly. Ren Xiaosu glanced at him. Don't you always fall asleep when I'm talking to you about reason? How can I teach you? Should I give you a dream? Then I won't sleep in the future. Yan Liwen glanced at Sister Xiaoyu, and then smiled embarrassedly. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door of the clinic. Ren Xiaosu frowned and turned back. Usually, no one would come to the door as long as night fell, because the market town was not safe. What happened today? Could it be that Wang Fuge had returned? Ren Xiaosu thought that only Wang Fuge would come to the door at this time. After all, the two families were too close. If someone intended to take this opportunity to implement a criminal plan against Wang Fuge would probably have entered the clinic before it was implemented. Ren Xiaosu went over to open the door and said, Old Wang, you really need to find a wife as soon as possible. Why do you keep knocking on our door? As soon as the door opened, Ren Xiaosu was stunned. It was not Wang Fuge. Ren Xiaosu knew this man. He was a young man in the town who was idle and was called Zhang Baojin. He did not go out to work on weekdays and was supported by his parents working in the factory. Ren Xiaosu asked, what's the matter? He looked at the other person carefully. There were no injuries on his body. Why did the other person come so late? If he wanted to rob the clinic, he really went far away. Now Ren Xiaosu has a strength of 5.5 and an agility of 4.1. He has been fighting bravely for so many years. Even if there are 10 young people like Zhang Baojin, Ren Xiaosu can kill them. Zhang Baojin said hurriedly, Doctor, please help me check my illness, and please keep it a secret for me. Ren Xiaosu thought for a moment and stepped aside. He was just a little curious now. Tell me, what's wrong with you? Don't be shy, I've been through a lot, I've seen all kinds of diseases. Wait a minute, Zhang Baojin was quite polite when talking to Ren Xiaosu. There were many young people like Zhang Baojin in the market town who relied on their parents. They gathered together all day long to steal and do bad things, and no one in the market town was willing to provoke them easily. But Zhang Baojin was not stupid. He knew that he couldn't afford to provoke Ren Xiaosu. In fact, no one wanted to provoke Ren Xiaosu before. It seemed that Ren Xiaosu was a bit like them, but the problem was that everyone in the market town knew very well that if they provoked Zhang Baojin, they would just be retaliated against, and it wouldn't be a big deal if they just resisted. They were just trivial matters. If you offend Ren Xiaosu, you might die. Zhang Baojin closed the door of the clinic, then turned around and asked, Doctor, something strange happened to me. Ren Xiaosu frowned and said, I can't cure impotence. Not this, Zhang Baojin said, I'll show you, don't be surprised. Ren Xiaosu waited and watched. At this time, Zhang Baojin opened his mouth and spit out a saliva bubble. Ren Xiaosu, that's it? Exclamation mark. But in the next moment, the bubble that flew out of Zhang Baojin's mouth burst, and Ren Xiaosu actually felt a burst of power in the bubble, pushing him back. The power was not strong, but it was definitely not something a normal saliva bubble could do. Doctor? Doctor, what are you doing? Zhang Baojin looked at Ren Xiaosu and asked in confusion. I saw if your saliva splashed on me, Ren Xiaosu asked, straightening his clothes. When did you acquire this ability? It's not a disease, and I can't cure it. But my parents say I'm sick, and they say I'm mentally ill, Zhang Baojin explained. If I don't come to see you, they won't be at ease. My parents love you so much? Ren Xiaosu always felt that this was strange, but he thought about it and said, I don't think it's a disease. You may have heard that some people have strange abilities nowadays. Ren Xiaosu was not talking nonsense, because a long time ago, there was a legend that there were people with supernatural powers in this world who could drive a train out of the void. People in the market town spread this story with details and talked about it with relish. But when this happened to me, why did they say it was a disease? When Zhang Baojun heard that even Ren Xiaosu said he was not sick, he immediately thanked him happily. Thank you, doctor. I will go back and tell my parents. Thanks from Zhang Baojun, +1. Zhang Baojun turned and walked out. Ren Xiaosu thought, isn't this kid very polite to others? However, Ren Xiaosu didn't like young people like Zhang Baojun. After all, everyone lived in this era. If they didn't work hard, they really couldn't survive. These idle young people could still be so comfortable because they still had their parents. It's pitiful that parents all over the world are so kind. Some parents are willing to use their own lives to fulfill their children's lives. The next morning, Wang Fuge quietly walked into the clinic. He pulled Ren Xiaosu and whispered, I found out that Chen Haidong also just found out what happened. It seems that someone in other barriers suddenly attacked the barrier manager with supernatural powers. Now all barriers are investigating the existence of supernatural powers. It turns out that such people really exist. Really? Ren Xiaosu asked in shock, then there won't be supernatural powers around us, right? Who knows? Wang Fuge laughed, this matter has nothing to do with us. That's right, Ren Xiaosu laughed in agreement, but in his heart he was thinking about what happened last night. He didn't know if Zhang Baojun had told anyone about it. There is such an advantage to having a chatterbox like Wang Fuge around. This guy is close to the people in the barrier, so he can know any news faster than other people in the market town. No wonder Wang Fuge lives better than most people in the market town. It can only be said that this may be what Wang Fuge is good at. Suddenly, Wang Fuge laughed foolishly and said, Xiaosu, if I had some supernatural powers, would it be easier for me to find a wife? Come on, Ren Xiaosu said unhappily, look at your silly son, he's almost crying, and he's still thinking about this. Don't talk nonsense, my son is not stupid. Wang Fuge was unhappy, he can't do anything about me, and I was just talking casually. When I have supernatural powers. Ren Xiaosu interrupted, if you had them, you would have had them a long time ago. What are you waiting for? Wang Fuge was speechless for a long time. Thanks to KG 12138 and book friend 201711300045599159 for becoming the new leaders of this book. Chapter 34 The Misfortune of Others. I'm not saying why you're always thinking about finding a wife, old Wang. Ren Xiaosu is confused. There's no shortage of women in our market town, right? There are many people who are willing to pay for a meal every day. Ren Xiaosu has seen this before, not to mention women, but men as well. There were several women who wanted to pay for Ren Xiaosu's meal, including men. When Yan Liwen found out about this, he almost vomited, so Yan Liwen was so defensive against Sister Xiao at first. Sometimes, stories in real life are far more bizarre than some of the storybooks from Mr. Zhang in the school. Wang Fuge shook his greasy half-long hair and said arrogantly, how can I marry someone who is not decent? With my status, I should at least find a decent woman, right? Yes, you are a squire in our market town. Ren Xiaosu said insincerely. At this time, two girls walked past a clinic together on the street. Wang Fuge's eyes lit up, what do you think of these two? Ren Xiaosu looked at the two girls, one is pretty but has a bad figure, and the other is not pretty but has a good figure. So, what is the relationship between these two girls and you? Wang Fuge. This really choked Wang Fuge. Wang Fuge was so angry that he turned around and prepared to go back to his grocery store to greet customers. As a result, something strange happened. The gate of the refuge wall was slowly lifted up. The friction sound of steel, wood, and ropes made people feel sick. The heavy gate was lifted up little by little, and it was so heavy that it almost made people breathless. Chen Haidong came out of the refuge wall with a team of private soldiers. This time, the officer of the private army was not Wang Konggang, who had dealt with Ren Xiaosu before, but a completely unfamiliar new face who had never appeared in the market town before. Where did Wang Konggang go? Was he punished by that boss Luo? What are they going to do? Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. I don't know, Wang Fuge looked bewildered. He left Ren Xiaosu and walked towards Chen Haidong. Because of the distance, Ren Xiaosu couldn't hear what they were talking about. But he saw the private army of number 113 barrier running towards the market town. After a while, they came back with a man. The man shouted, "Why did you arrest me? Let me go." Ren Xiaosu watched silently. The man who was arrested was Zhang Baojun, who came to see him last night. Wang Fuge saw the private army arresting people and quickly stopped them. "What's going on, officers? Although this kid is a little naughty, he won't make any big mistakes. Get out of here," the officer of the private army said coldly. In front of the black and cold guns, Wang Fuge could only admit his weakness, otherwise the other party would really shoot. Wang Fuge talked to the town manager Chen Haidong for a long time, but Zhang Baojun was still taken into the refuge barrier. The tooth-grinding voice sounded again, and the gate as heavy as a mountain separated the two worlds again. Ren Xiaosu walked up to Wang Fuge and asked, "What's going on?" He had to ask about this, because he knew that Zhang Baojun must have been captured in the barrier because of his so-called supernatural ability, and he and Yan Luoyun both had such ability. Wang Fuge sighed and said, "It's over, this kid is finished." "Why?" Chen Haidong said that this kid showed off his supernatural ability in front of his friends yesterday, but his friends turned around and sold him out. Now all the refuge barriers are rejecting people with supernatural abilities. If there were no supernatural people attacking the refuge barrier managers, it would be fine, but now, I'm afraid the managers are most afraid of these people. If you want to be afraid of someone, what would you do? Kill him, Ren Xiaosu said calmly and resolutely. You see, the managers in this refuge are different from you, Wang Fuge said with a frown. When they found the danger, they didn't think of killing them, but understanding them. Chen Haidong said that a yard and a building were temporarily vacated in the refuge, and a mental hospital was temporarily established. A lot of medical equipment was sent in. Are they going to treat these supernatural people? Ren Xiaosu was stunned. What the hell? Wang Fuge said. Chen Haidong said that those instruments are not for treatment, but for scientific research in the barrier. 3 supernatural people have been caught in the refuge in one day. These 3 people are in danger. Ren Xiaosu felt cold in his heart. He couldn't imagine what it would feel like if he was trapped in a mental hospital and being studied. Old Wang, do you still want supernatural powers now? Ren Xiaosu asked. Wang Fuge thought for a moment and said, it's still possible, just don't be so fierce that no one will know about it. Xiaosu, you too, if you and Luoyun really have some supernatural powers, don't let others know. Ren Xiaosu looked strange. Yeah, okay. That night, a big thing happened in the market town. Zhang Baojun's father sneaked into his friend's house in the middle of the night, which was just a shack of a few square meters. Then Zhang Baojun's father went on a killing spree and killed all 4 members of the other party's family. In the end, he also died of excessive blood loss. Zhang Baojun's mother also hanged herself on a dead tree at the intersection of the market town. Zhang Baojun was the only child in the family. He was originally the favorite of his parents. He didn't even have to work and was supported by his parents. Now he is gone, and the whole family can't survive. In the market town, some people sympathized with him, while others secretly said something sarcastic, show off, why show off a little supernatural power? And Zhang Baojun's father, if you're really brave, just charge into the refuge barrier. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu recalled the way Zhang Baojun blew bubbles. Damn world. The nobles in the barrier seemed to have the power of life and death over everyone, but Ren Xiaosu felt that this kind of life would change one day. But he didn't know when that day would come. A group of people in the market town watched from afar the dead tree where Zhang Baojun's mother hanged herself. Ren Xiaosu saw that Mr. Zhang from the school had also come. But Zhang Jinglin looked at some people around him. Didn't I teach you to watch the fun like this when I was in the school? Isn't the misfortune of others your misfortune? After speaking, several strong men around Zhang Jinglin lowered their heads. Zhang Jinglin sighed and said, go and bury the couple together. Sir, we should go to the factory to work. The strong men hesitated. Wang Fuge said at the side, I will give you 800 yuan so that you don't have to work in vain. Well, the light and strong man agreed, we will go right away. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35. Thanks for maxing out your coins. Zhang Baojin's incident cast a layer of gray fog over the mood of everyone in the town. In fact, everyone had long been accustomed to living under the rule of the refuge barrier, but when everyone found that the power of life was not on their own hands, their mood suddenly became heavy. Ren Xiaosu had been thinking about things all day. According to Wang Fuge, Zhang Baojin would be in danger if he was caught. After the refuge barrier studied him, even if he didn't die, he would be skinned, and the most important thing was that Zhang Baojin lost his freedom from then on. As for Ren Xiaosu himself, his secrets were much bigger than Zhang Baojin's. Now that the palace in his mind has unlocked many functions, there are still more functions waiting for Ren Xiaosu to explore. Even Ren Xiaosu himself didn't know where the end of this palace was and to what extent it would eventually improve him. If his secrets were leaked, it would not be surprising for him to be captured by the refuge barrier for brain slices. Ren Xiaosu went to the school in advance. He found Yan Liwen and seriously told Yan Liwen not to reveal his secrets. This was a matter of life and death. The two brothers did not have the strength to fight against the refuge barrier. The factory chimneys inside and outside the barrier spewed thick white smoke into the sky, and the time-telling bells in the barrier still rang on time, as if nothing had happened. Mr. Zhang seemed to be in a low mood today. Sometimes he would be distracted during the lecture. Whenever he was reminded by students, he would bow to the students and apologize. Finally, Mr. Zhang said, "I'm sorry, students. I didn't teach well today because of my own reasons. Let's study on our own. There will be no class today." Ren Xiaosu did not go back to the clinic directly today. He also wanted to be quiet in a clean place like the school to think about his future with Yan Liwen and sister Xiaoyu. When Ren Xiaosu was substituting for the class in the afternoon, he did not teach anything new. To be honest, his mind was not here at all today. When school was over, Ren Xiaosu rarely stayed in class, but was thinking about taking Yan Liwen home early. Ren Xiaosu said, "Let's end the get out of class. I won't teach you other knowledge today. Stand up," said the monitor. "Thank you, teacher." Thanks from Li Yaoqian, +1. Thanks from Wang Dalin, +1. From Ren Xiaosu was stunned. There were only 24 people in the class, but he got 23 thank you coins when he said the get out of class was over. The only one who didn't give him thank you coins was Yan Liwen. Yan Liwen also saw that Ren Xiaosu was a little absent-minded today, so he was more concerned about what happened to his brother, instead of thinking about going out to play after school. Ren Xiaosu stared at these little bastards who ran away in a flash. It turned out that they didn't like him teaching. "You all wait for me, what's wrong with my teaching?" This day was magical. Ren Xiaosu worked hard for almost half a month to save up 12 thank you coins, but today he got 23 coins in one day. The total number of gratitude coins reached 35, and it seemed that he was one step closer to unlocking the weapon. After carefully weighing the pros and cons, Ren Xiaosu decided that if he didn't like his lectures, then he didn't like them, and he would just give the gratitude coins. During class the next day, Ren Xiaosu, who was originally seeing patients in the clinic, didn't even open the clinic and ran directly to the school. Ren Xiaosu was very clear about this matter. Why did he open a clinic? Just to make money? Of course not. Now that he has found a way to quickly earn gratitude coins, how could he miss it? The school teacher Zhang Jinglin hadn't finished the get out of class yet, and he saw that Ren Xiaosu had already arrived outside the classroom. The students followed Zhang Jinglin's gaze and looked. For some reason, when they saw Ren Xiaosu, they felt a chill behind their backs. Today, Ren Xiaosu was not talking about survival in the wild, but what part of the body could be hit to kill when fighting with an enemy, or how to instantly make the opponent lose the ability to move. Ren Xiaosu himself had not actually received any relevant training, and there was no place to train in the market town, so this was all the experience he had accumulated after years of fighting with others. When Zhang Jinglin heard that Ren Xiaosu was going to fight against people, he frowned. He didn't like to teach students how to fight against people. In previous classes, he taught more about how to face the natural environment. There is such a psychological suggestion that when you teach students how to fight against humans, they will naturally regard humans as imaginary enemies. Similarly, if you teach them how to face wolves, they will regard wolves as imaginary enemies. Deep down, Zhang Jinglin never wanted his students to become violent people, But for some reason, he sighed when he thought of Zhang Baojan's matter, and finally let Ren Xiaosu say whatever he wanted. Ren Xiaosu said to the students at the podium, "What are the most vulnerable parts of the human body? If you want to talk about it, you have to proceed step by step. Let's start with the most well-known one, the neck. But this place is actually not particularly easy for you to succeed when fighting with others, because the human body's subconscious mind is most protective of this place. The entire neck trachea is composed of nearly 20 fragile cartilages. If you break any one of them, it can instantly make the opponent lose its combat effectiveness. The broken bones will quickly block the oxygen delivery channel, and then the opponent may suffocate to death." At this time, there was silence in the classroom. Ren Xiaosu looked at everyone. "Do you have any questions?" Wang Dalin asked weakly. "How do you know that there are nearly 20 fragile cartilages in the neck?" There were no relevant books in the school, and there was no one studying this in the town. If Ren Xiaosu had not actually counted, how could he know such a thing? But how should Ren Xiaosu count, and whose should he count? Thinking of this, everyone was a little panicked. Ren Xiaosu did not answer this question. He glanced at the sky. At this time, the bell of 4 o'clock in the afternoon rang inside the refuge barrier. Ren Xiaosu said to everyone with a smile, "Get out of class is over. Stand up." "Thank you, teacher." "Thanks from Wang Dalin, +1. From." Ren Xiaosu suddenly frowned. The number was wrong. Shouldn't there be more than 20 thank you coins? Why are there only 9? These little bastards have gotten used to not staying after class so quickly, right? They don't even have a sincere thank you? I'm afraid you haven't been beaten by society yet. Just as the students were about to rush out, they heard Ren Xiaosu's gloomy voice behind them. "Come back here, I'm going to tell you today how I know how many pieces of cartilage there are." Wang Dalin. Li Yaoqian. All the students. Chapter 36, The Old Man Sends Off the Young Man. Ren Xiaosu had asked them to come back, so how could these students not dare to come back? The students had gone home and complained to their parents about Ren Xiaosu's crimes, but the parents' reactions were all the same. "It's good that the teacher teaches you more things, you should be grateful instead of complaining, okay? Don't complain. Especially don't complain to your substitute teacher." The students didn't understand. In the past, the parents were quite on their side, but this time they were all on Ren Xiaosu's side? Moreover, why were the parents' tones so strange? The students felt that the parents' tones were a little wrong, so they continued to ask questions. Li Yaoqian's father, Li Fake, said to Li Yaoqian earnestly, "Don't ask any more, my daughter, just study with peace of mind, don't go to your teacher Ren Xiaosu for trouble, okay? Dad doesn't want the old man to send the young man away." The strong girl Li Yaoqian was frightened at the time. How could the old man come out to send the young man away? Exclamation mark. So now, the students are unusually honest in front of Ren Xiaosu. As soon as Ren Xiaosu finished speaking, the students hurriedly sat back in their seats as if they were frightened. The lecture lasted until dark. Seeing that the sky was getting darker and darker, the students looked at Ren Xiaosu eagerly as he spoke more and more excitedly. Finally, Li Yaoqian couldn't help it anymore. She said weakly, "Teacher, it's getting dark. If we don't go home, it will be unsafe." When the students said this before, Ren Xiaosu had finished the get out of class, so when Li Yaoqian finished this sentence, all the students looked at Ren Xiaosu expectantly. As a result, Ren Xiaosu said with a smile, "It's okay, you will be fine." That day, Ren Xiaosu spoke straight until 8 o'clock in the evening before the get out of class was finally over. At this time, the sky had completely darkened. When the get out of class was over, Ren Xiaosu didn't receive a single thank you coin, but he didn't mind. As the saying goes, to praise first, suppress first. Without oppression, how can there be gratitude, right? "Let's go, the teacher will take you home," Ren Xiaosu said more and more kindly. However, the students looked at each other, and they suddenly realized that this substitute teacher Ren Xiaosu seemed to have mastered some extraordinary skills. In the past, Ren Xiaosu had to let the students go home before dark, because it would be unsafe for the students if it was later. But now, Ren Xiaosu felt that it was okay to waste a little time, but the students must learn useful knowledge. They must understand the cruelty of this society. It might be a little unsafe for ordinary people to take a large group of children, but now in the market town, Ren Xiaosu, whose physical fitness is almost twice that of a normal adult, can ignore the issue of safety. Anyone without a gun is not within Ren Xiaosu's fear range. Ren Xiaosu personally handed the students to their parents one by one in order of distance. Some neighbors saw that Ren Xiaosu actually took the trouble to teach students knowledge and personally sent them home for the safety of the students. What a good teacher. The parents didn't know why Ren Xiaosu did it. They just thought that Ren Xiaosu is so kind, so Ren Xiaosu received 6 thanks from parents for sending students home. Ren Xiaosu thought to himself that he had not fully exerted his subjective initiative before. He worked hard to see a doctor and only got 12 thank you coins. Now he changed his mindset and changed his way of doing things, and the thank you coins immediately became 50. The price was that Yan Liwen didn't talk to him for a whole night. To be honest, the total class time during the day was only about 5 hours. Before Ren Xiaosu took over the class, the students never thought that the survival class could last for 5 hours. The next day, Ren Xiaosu couldn't wait to go to the school, but the teacher Zhang Jinglin couldn't help it. He pulled Ren Xiaosu aside and said, "You can't leave school so late in the future. You should pay attention to combining work and rest and making progress step by step when studying. Even if you want to instill all the knowledge into them, you have to do it slowly." Ren Xiaosu humbly accepted Zhang Jinglin's advice. "Don't worry, sir, I will definitely not delay the class today." Yan Liwen listened to the conversation between the two people with a cold face. Of course, he knew that Ren Xiaosu would not delay the class today. Yesterday, Ren Xiaosu stretched the class time to the full just to harvest a wave of thanks today. Yan Liwen knew Ren Xiaosu's character too well. As expected by Yan Liwen, when the bell rang at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Ren Xiaosu smiled kindly and said, "Do you want to get out of class?" The classroom was silent, and no one knew why Ren Xiaosu asked this. If they said they did, wouldn't that prove that Ren Xiaosu's teaching was not good enough? If they said they didn't, they were afraid that Ren Xiaosu would really fulfill their idea of not wanting to get out of class. So, they just shut up. Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, "Studying also requires a combination of work and rest. I taught you so much knowledge yesterday, so I won't delay the class today. On the one hand, it allows you to digest the knowledge you have learned, and on the other hand, it allows you to relax and have fun today." When the students heard this, they were almost moved to tears. "And to get out of class," Ren Xiaosu said. "Stand up." "Thank you, teacher." "Thanks from Li Yaoqian, +1. "Thanks from Wang Dalan." From. Just like the day before yesterday, in addition to Yan Liwen, Ren Xiaosu once again received 23 thank you coins. His thank you coins were almost full in 3 days. 73 pieces. The day to unlock the weapon is just around the corner. But at this moment, Ren Xiaosu actually saw Wang Fuge running into the classroom through the open classroom door. "Old Wang, what are you doing here?" Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. He subconsciously wondered if something happened to Xiaoyu alone in the clinic. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu prepared to take Yan Liwen home quickly. As a result, Wang Fuge said, "Get ready. The band is about to come out of the barrier. Someone just brought me a letter from Boss Luo. I don't know how they did it. Boss Luo actually agreed to let you be their guide." Ren Xiaosu was stunned. His first reaction was not that it would be good if Xiaoyu was in trouble, but then his heart tightened, because he realized that this band must have a more obscure and important purpose. Otherwise, how could the other party convince Boss Luo to let them go? Is it because they gave Boss Luo enough benefits in exchange, or is it that Boss Luo is behind the band's plan to go to Jingshan? No matter from which angle, Ren Xiaosu may really have to take this trip. Ren Xiaosu turned around and walked towards the backyard of the school. Wang Fuge asked anxiously, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to discuss something with Mr. Zhang at the school. Let Yan Liwen and Sister Xiaoyu stay at the school first, at least until I come back," Ren Xiaosu said firmly. Only in this way can Ren Xiaosu have no worries. However, if these people think that Ren Xiaosu will let them slaughter him in the wilderness, they are very wrong. Chapter 37 The World Outside. "Mr. Zhang," Ren Xiaosu said politely to Zhang Jinglin, "I hope you can allow Liwen and Xiaoyu to live in the school during my absence." Zhang Jinglin looked at Ren Xiaosu and asked in confusion, "Are you sure you have to go?" Ren Xiaosu thought for a while and said, "I'm afraid there is no way to refuse them. You have also seen the end of Zhang Baojin. The power of life and death between you and me is now in the hands of the people in the barrier. If I take the initiative to go, I can avoid danger in time, or even sacrifice others to save myself. But if I stay here and refuse them, I'm afraid they will use despicable methods to deal with us. Is there no better choice? Zhang Jinglin asked. I'm afraid not. Ren Xiaosu shook his head. But don't worry, Mr. Zhang, maybe they are all dead, and I may not be in trouble. In fact, Ren Xiaosu just didn't want to wade into the muddy water at first. Now with his physical fitness and the experience of surviving in the wilderness in the past, Ren Xiaosu is not worried that he will not be able to come back. Moreover, the reward conditions given by the other party did not satisfy him. If he, Yan Limyun, and Xiaoyu had 3 places to enter the refuge barrier, it would be about right, otherwise it would be meaningless. He really wanted to enter the refuge barrier, but he could not leave Yan Limyun and Xiaoyu alone. What Ren Xiaosu did not tell Yan Limyun was that for some reason, after he had the ability, when he tossed and turned one night, he also longed for a bigger world outside. This market town was too small, so small that he could see the end at a glance from a high place, so small that he could hear the voice of a widow scolding little hooligans in the west from the east of the market town. He also wanted to go out and take a look. The only thing Ren Xiaosu was worried about now was what would happen if he left Xiaoyu and Yan Limyun's safety. If Zhang Jinglin did not agree to let Xiaoyu and Yan Limyun stay, then Ren Xiaosu would not follow the band no matter what. It seems that you have an idea in mind. You can ask Xiaoyu and Limyun to stay here tonight. I will clean up the house for them. Zhang Jinglin nodded. In the wilderness, Zhang Jinglin felt that no one in the whole market town was more experienced than Ren Xiaosu, so as a teacher in the school, he did not say anything when he saw that the other party had his own confidence. Ren Xiaosu was relieved when he saw that Zhang Jinglin agreed. Sir, I have 5,000 yuan that I saved recently. Please accept it as the boarding fee for Xiaoyu and Yan Limyun. Take it back. Zhang Jinglin shook his head and said, I am a teacher in the school. I only charge tuition. Sir, don't refuse. You can buy some cigarettes with it, Ren Xiaosu said. Zhang Jinglin hesitated for a moment. Ahem, then I will take 1,000, just as rent. Ren Xiaosu did not hesitate anymore and immediately gave Zhang Jinglin 1,000. He was indeed stingy at ordinary times, but he never hesitated on major matters. Ren Xiaosu never hesitated to spend money on Yan Limyun. Ren Xiaosu planned to give the remaining 4,000 directly to Sister Xiaoyu. This money could not be given to Yan Limyun. If Sister Xiaoyu had any thoughts about the money, she could just take the money and leave, but she would not have any bad intentions towards Yan Limyun. But if the money was with Yan Limyun's safety would be threatened. At this time, Ren Xiaosu still had a little guard against Sister Xiaoyu. This idea might be wrong, and it was a bit sorry for Sister Xiaoyu, but it must be the choice that was least likely to leave any regrets and pain. To be honest, Ren Xiaosu still felt that the time they spent with Sister Xiaoyu was too short. It was not that he now doubted Sister Xiaoyu's purpose. It was just that he had struggled hard to survive in this wasteland for so long, and every day of his life was fought for by his own hands, and every step seemed to make the ground bloody. How could such a life be so easy to hand over the fate to someone who had only known him for a few days? Ren Xiaosu took Yan Limyun back to the clinic to pack up. He didn't expect that the new home he just got would be idle again. Wang Fuga said beside him, Don't worry, I will take good care of this yard for you and will never let anyone else live in it. Okay, thank you in advance, Ren Xiaosu said. In fact, you don't have to let them live in the school. I'm here, what are you afraid of? Wang Fuga said with a smile. I'm also on guard against you. Ren Xiaosu ruthlessly rejected Wang Fuga's proposal. In this market town, only the school is the safest place. Wang Fuga was not angry either. He knew what kind of person Ren Xiaosu was, so it was expected that Ren Xiaosu would be on guard against him as well. Xiaoyu and Yan Limyun didn't speak the whole time. They just packed up their things. Yan Limyun asked in a low voice, Can't we not go? I'll be back. That road is not dangerous as long as you take the right path. If there is any danger, I will leave them and run back, Ren Xiaosu said. He didn't answer Yan Limyun's question, but directly stuffed all the money to Xiaoyu. Anyway, I have no place to spend money in the wilderness. Take this money. Well, Xiaoyu agreed, you should bring more dry food. It's too hard to find food on the wilderness by luck. No, Ren Xiaosu shook his head, if you don't consider the taste and tolerance, as long as you pass the first few dozen kilometers, food is still easy to find. However, Xiao's words reminded Ren Xiaosu that since he could put the medicine bottle back into his mind palace at any time, could other things be taken back? Since the medicine bottle is a real object with mass, it means that the palace is also a strange space. If this is true, Ren Xiaosu wants to secretly take the well in the market town away. After all, the water outside is really not reassuring to drink. This is probably what the so-called leaving one's hometown means, right? Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu secretly tried to store a piece of steamed bread at hand into the palace, but the next moment something magical happened. The steamed bread did not move. The palace made a sound. No storage authority obtained. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. It turned out that he could really store things in the palace, but he was not qualified yet. He asked in his mind, what can I rely on to obtain storage authority? No authority answer. The palace fell silent and did not answer Ren Xiaosu's question. Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt that this palace seemed to have no consciousness of its own, but was only issuing specific tasks to Ren Xiaosu based on a certain logic. Its role seemed to be just to guide Ren Xiaosu's behavior. Ren Xiaosu placed Sister Xiao and Yan Liwen in the school and turned away without hesitation. Sister Xiao and Yan Liwen stood at the door of the school and watched Ren Xiaosu's back leaving in the night. Yan Liwen suddenly asked, Sister Xiao, you actually know why he gave you all the money, right? Yes, Sister Xiao responded calmly. Will you blame him? Yan Liwen looked at Sister Xiao. No, Sister Xiao laughed. Ren Xiaosu walked very far before he finally looked back in the direction of the school. At this time, the galaxy above the sky was vast and the stars were like the sea. He turned around and walked towards the clinic firmly to greet the guests who were about to arrive. Many times, people will only understand when they look back on their lives. Maybe they only made a small decision in a certain period of time, but that may be the fork in the road for a huge change in their destiny. Going left or right is all up to one's own thoughts, and then making a decision will run towards the unknown future without hesitation. But at that time, I thought it was just an ordinary day in my life. Chapter 38 Conditions. Ren Xiaosu closed his eyes in the backyard of the clinic, waiting for the band to arrive, but it was not until the early morning that he heard the creaking sound of the gate of the refuge barrier slowly rising. What a pity for the vegetables that had just been harvested in the yard, those green onions, those garlic sprouts, those green vegetables. What should come will eventually come. Ren Xiaosu opened his eyes and walked to the front of the consultation room, sitting upright in his seat. Dong dong dong, 3 knocks on the door. Please come in, the door is not closed, Ren Xiaosu said, without raising his head, as if he was writing a medical record. The door opened, and the morning sun outside instantly shone on Ren Xiaosu's face. Ren Xiaosu looked up and saw a carefully dressed girl standing at the door, wearing clothes that Ren Xiaosu had never seen in the market town. Ren Xiaosu had seen her before when he was leaning on the window. This girl was Luo Zinayu, the famous singer in the refuge barrier. Fancy, Ren Xiaosu muttered to himself, and then he looked behind Luo Zinayu, where the band staff and the private army of the refuge fortress stood. This time, the private army actually sent 12 people, which was even more than the last time. However, what Ren Xiaosu was most concerned about was the girl in the cap, the owner of the perfect firearm skill. The girl still wore a cap with a brim pulled down very low, and wore a dark blue sportswear. She seemed to notice that Ren Xiaosu's eyes were on her, so she raised her face slightly. Ren Xiaosu saw the other's delicate chin, but he could not see the other's eyes shrouded in the shadow of the cap. And behind this group of people, a large group of students from the school gathered. In fact, the band members were also a little confused. Why did these children suddenly gather here? Li Fakei's sturdy daughter whispered to the girl in the cap behind her, "Are you going to take Ren Xiaosu away?" No one answered Li Yaoqian, as if the girl in the cap didn't like to talk much. But at this moment, Ren Xiaosu suddenly heard the palace in his mind say, "Mission, refuse to go to Jingshan together." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. How could even the palace come to get involved in this matter? According to normal logic, the palace should be for his own good, but why doesn't the palace want him to go to Jingshan? What is there? Obviously, Ren Xiaosu himself has been to Jingshan. It must be a little more dangerous than the market town, but it is not so dangerous that the palace needs to come out to remind him. Is there something wrong? Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu wanted to give up. He wanted to go out and take a look, But he wanted to go out and see the vast world outside, not to see how dangerous that world is. Luo Zinayu sat down opposite Ren Xiaosu. She smiled and said, "You must be Ren Xiaosu." Ren Xiaosu looked at Luo Zinayu and pondered, Dad's father is called Grandpa, and Dad's mother is called Grandma. Luo Zinayu. Is this mental illness so serious? At this time, an officer from the private army came in from outside. He looked at Ren Xiaosu and smiled, "Don't pretend. We have dealt with each other before." When Ren Xiaosu looked up and saw the person coming, he felt bad. This guy was Wang Kongyang, who had searched him twice. He couldn't pretend now, and Ren Xiaosu knew very well that he might have to go this time. He originally sat upright and fell on the backrest of the chair behind him. His whole body suddenly became lazy. "I won't go. The mission is completed, and you will be rewarded with a basic skill learning map, and you can learn other people's abilities." Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up. The mission was completed. Sure enough, the standard for this palace to judge whether the mission is completed or not is not an established fact, but Ren Xiaosu's attitude. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu suddenly had a bold idea in his heart. Wang Kongyang said on the side, "How can you not go?" "I'll go," Ren Xiaosu said seriously. Wang Kongyang, but what disappointed Ren Xiaosu was that the palace did not issue any new tasks this time. Come to think of it, the previous tasks such as giving sparrows only had one chance. How could Ren Xiaosu keep doing tasks like this? At this time, Luo Zinayu smiled and said, "It would be best if you are willing to go. I believe someone has already conveyed Boss Luo's letter to you. If you don't go, there will be no place for you in this market town." "I can go," Ren Xiaosu said, "but I have a few conditions." Luo Zinayu looked at Ren Xiaosu with a smile. She felt that the communication was much smoother now. "You say, I want a reward of 30,000 yuan. No, 10,000 yuan. Okay, then I want to add 10 bags of salt, 10 packs of cigarettes, 100 kilograms of rice, and..." Ren Xiaosu counted on his fingers. Luo Zinayu said calmly, "Stop talking. I'll give you 30,000 yuan. Okay, I have another condition," Ren Xiaosu said. "Can't you say it all at once?" Luo Zinayu was impatient. "You interrupted me just now," Ren Xiaosu said. "I can go, but Wang Kongyang can't go." This Wang Kongyang is obviously a relative of the dead factory manager Wang Donggang. He has already used his power for personal gain to investigate him twice. If they set out together, who knows what will happen on the way. So Ren Xiaosu can't watch a time bomb buried beside him. "Hey, wait, is Wang Kongyang being exiled because he offended Boss Luo by searching him twice without permission? This is very likely. Who would be willing to go to the wilderness in an ordinary private army? Are they tired of the good days in the refuge fortress? So Wang Kongyang must have been more dissatisfied with himself after being exiled, so he can't be allowed to go with him. Some people say that the most worrying thing in this wasteland is the increasingly strong beasts, but Ren Xiaosu disagrees. He has encountered some beasts and killed some of them, but the most worrying thing in this wasteland is never the beasts, but the people." Luo Zinayu turned her head and glanced at Wang Kongyang. She didn't expect that these two people would have a feud. At this time, Luo Zinayu turned around and looked at the girl in the cap. The girl nodded implicitly. Luo Zinayu said, "Okay, Wang Kongyang, you go back." Wang Kongyang looked at Ren Xiaosu, and Ren Xiaosu smiled. "Actually, you don't want to go, right?" Wang Kongyang raised his lips. "Interesting." After that, Wang Kongyang turned and left. At this time, Ren Xiaosu said, "I actually have another condition." But Luo Zinayu had already stood up, and her smiling face had turned cold. "Young man, my patience has run out." Ren Xiaosu wondered why the people in this refuge are so moody. They were smiling just now, but how come they changed their faces faster than turning the pages of a book? Thanks to Kevin Zhou Yang and Feng Nian 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 for becoming the new leaders of this book. Chapter 39 Yang Xiaojin. The team cannot set out for the time being, because they have to wait for the new private army officers to arrive in the refuge fortress. No matter how small an officer is, the fact that he can be replaced at any time is enough to show Luo Zinayu's influence in the refuge fortress. However, Luo Zinayu's glance at the girl in the peaked cap just now also caught Ren Xiaosu's eyes. "Who is this girl in the peaked cap?" Ren Xiaosu suddenly said, "We are all teammates in the future. I don't know what everyone's name is yet." A band staff member sneered, We are not teammates with the refugees. You are just a guide. Don't be too familiar. Ren Xiaosu carefully looked at the band staff member, and seriously considered whether there was a suitable place on the road to kill him or something. The refugees in the market town and the residents in the refuge fortress are in obvious contrast. Compared with the fair and elegant people in the refuge fortress, the dirtiness and barbarity of the refugees in the market town are obvious, but there is a more essential difference between them. That is the attitude towards life. How did Ren Xiaosu survive all the way? How did these people live in the shelter? The living environment will bring everything to person, thinking, personality, etc. At this time, an officer came out of the shelter. He went straight to the clinic. When he came in front of everyone, he said, "Second Lieutenant of the Field Service Department, Su Xianshu." It was not until this time that everyone began to introduce themselves to each other, but Ren Xiaosu did not remember others. He kept staring at the band staff member who had mocked him before. He only heard the staff member introduce himself. "I am Miss Luo Zinayu's agent. My name is Liu Bu." Ren Xiaosu wrote down the name Liu Bu in his little notebook. Suddenly, the girl in the peaked cap said, "Yang Xiajin, Jin, the hibiscus flower." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. It turned out that the girl's name was Yang Xiajin. I don't know why Ren Xiaosu thought this name was very nice. It must be said that the difference between the refugees in the market town and the people in the shelter is also in their names. Look at the names in the fortress: Su Xianshu, Liu Bu, Luo Zinayu, Wang Konggang, Yang Xiajin. Look at the names of the refugees in the market town: Wang Fuge, Wang Dalan, Li Fake, Li Yaoqian. The names in the market town sound very sloppy. However, Ren Xiaosu now understands how the work is divided in this team. Liu Bu, as Luo Zinayu's agent, is the actual affairs manager of the entire band, such as daily necessities, which are all under his management. This time, 5 off-road vehicles and a pickup truck came out, and the trunks were filled with their daily necessities. Su Xianshu is responsible for the management of the team and the overall safety work. Originally, Ren Xiaosu thought that Yang Xiajin would also be responsible for something, but after listening from beginning to end, he suddenly found that Yang Xiajin was like a person who was free from the team and didn't have to take care of anything. According to Luo Zinayu's introduction to Su Xianshu, Yang Xiajin was her friend, and actually went to the number 112 barrier to play with her this time. Ren Xiaosu wanted to say at that time, "I don't believe you." After the introduction, everyone got on the vehicles one after another. There were 19 people in total for this trip, and Ren Xiaosu made 20, so it should be just right for 4 people in each of the 5 off-road vehicles. As a result, when Ren Xiaosu was about to get on the car, Liu Bu suddenly said, "You are so dirty, don't get on the car, sit in the pickup truck's cargo box." Ren Xiaosu didn't refute him. After all, why would he argue with a dead person? When Ren Xiaosu sat in the cargo box, the roar of the vehicle engine sounded in his ears, and the town in his eyes began to recede little by little. At the moment of leaving, Ren Xiaosu still felt a little reluctant. Even if this place was dirty and shabby, it was his home for all these years. Just as Ren Xiaosu was sighing, he suddenly heard a cheer from the side. Ren Xiaosu is finally leaving. We will be free from now on. Ha ha ha, the hard times are over. Speechless, Ren Xiaosu turned around and saw that Li Yaoqian and Wang Dalan were celebrating with a group of students from the school. Others didn't feel anything. Although Ren Xiaosu was the only doctor in the town, he was leaving. But the students were different. They knew that the days ahead would be better than now. At this moment, they had forgotten the fear of being ruled by Ren Xiaosu. A middle-aged man suddenly rushed out from the crowd. He was Li Yaoqian's father, Li Fake. Li Fake dragged the sturdy girl Li Yaoqian home and said, "You don't want to die, do you?" Li Yaoqian was puzzled. "Dad, what are you afraid of?" "Ren Xiaosu is gone," Li Fake said with great sorrow, "but he will come back." "What if he can't come back?" Li Yaoqian argued. "Isn't it said that the wilderness is very dangerous?" "You know shit." Li Fake grabbed the sturdy girl Li Yaoqian's hand tighter. "These people can't come back, but he can come back. And, don't hope for others to die in the future, do you hear me?" Li Yaoqian said that Ren Xiaosu might not come back, and the subtext was that Ren Xiaosu would die outside. In fact, people in the market town are numb to life and death, and feel that death is a very normal thing. But such a seed is buried in a child's heart. When this seed blooms and bears fruit in the future, no one knows what kind of fruit it will grow. Luo Zinayu and others in the SUV also heard the cheers. They rolled down the windows and looked back. Although they didn't know what hatred these people had with Ren Xiaosu, they knew they were celebrating Ren Xiaosu's departure from the market town. Liu Bu muttered in the passenger seat, "What kind of popularity does he have to have people celebrating his departure?" Luo Zinayu smiled as she sat in the back seat. "After you come back, find out more about this person. I want to know what he did in the market town." "Zinayu, why are you asking about him?" Liu Bu said disdainfully. "He's just a little gangster in the market town. If we didn't need a guide, how could he have any contact with people like us? This is the blessing he earned in his previous life, but he doesn't cherish it." In the car, only Yang Xiaojin remained silent, as if she was thinking about something. At the entrance of the school, Sister Xiaoi leaned against the fence and looked at the end of the market town road. She could only see Ren Xiaosu and the vehicles gradually turning into small black dots. She turned back to the backyard of the school and dipped a towel in water, then walked into the house to wipe the forehead of Yan Liuan, who had suddenly developed a fever and was unconscious. Mr. Zhang went to Lao Wang's grocery store to help buy antipyretic medicine, while Sister Xiaoi stayed by Yan Liuan's side to take care of him. At this time, Yan Liuan frowned, as if he was having a bad dream. Sister Xiaoi gently smoothed Yan Liuan's forehead and whispered, "Don't worry, Liuan, he will definitely come back." Chapter 40. I want to stay with my cookies. The road to Jingshan is not easy to travel, mostly dirt roads. Sometimes Ren Xiaosu would see cement roads occasionally appearing on the ground while sitting in the truck bed, but those roads had long since broken down for unknown reasons and became dilapidated. Ren Xiaosu had heard from Mr. Zhang in the school that these cement roads were left over from before the catastrophe era, and now, after who knows how many years, the roadbed has been damaged, and even most of the road surface has been buried by dirt. Now, the main roads connecting all the barriers are almost the same, except that there are relatively more vehicles coming and going, and the dirt roads are flatter. In fact, there are not many vehicles going between the barriers. In the market town, Ren Xiaosu and his friends can see external vehicles coming to barrier number 113 10 times a year, which is considered a relatively large number. The wilderness is not desolate. On the contrary, after starting from the market town, you only need to go through the first few dozen kilometers, and you can see lush green everywhere, and the vegetation has grown more and more luxuriantly in recent years. However, Ren Xiaosu thought that this shouldn't be a bad thing. Usually, food is scarce in the market town. If you can't eat meat, you can eat more vegetables. He noticed that even the cabbage planted by Zhang Jinglin himself was taller than before. Ren Xiaosu also specifically asked Zhang Jinglin if he had applied fertilizer, but Zhang Jinglin said no. This is a good thing. Maybe one potato can feed a family of 3 in the future. When Liu Bu asked Ren Xiaosu to sit in the back of the pickup truck, he probably never expected what Ren Xiaosu would do. The back of the truck was filled with food and water they brought from the barrier. There was no need to lock it. It was just wrapped in oilcloth. Ren Xiaosu was curious and lifted the oilcloth to take a look. He saw the word biscuit. He lifted another piece of oilcloth and saw bottled water. Because of the bumps, the car was not driving fast on the road. You know, the thing that the band feared most was not encountering wild beasts. After all, they were now accompanied by 12 soldiers from the private army, and they were all armed with live ammunition. There was no need to worry about wild beasts. There had indeed been incidents with wolf packs before, but the wolves had long since gone far away. The mountain they were hiding in was hundreds of kilometers away from here, so there was no need to worry about them suddenly coming back. According to the experience of the refuge barrier, they would not be able to return to this area for at least a year after recuperation. So the biggest worry for the team at this moment was what to do if the car broke down. Half of the soldiers from these private troops had learned to repair cars, but they couldn't possibly bring a full set of parts with them. Although the journey was slower, it was better than walking. During the trip, Ren Xiaosu insisted on getting off the car to relieve himself, so the entire team had to stop and wait for him, which made the people in the team even more dissatisfied with him, but Ren Xiaosu didn't care. Facing everyone's complaining eyes, he acted as if nothing had happened. The convoy continued to drive. At noon, when the convoy stopped, Liu Bu jumped out of the car first. He smiled happily and said, "I have been in the fortress for a long time. It is really refreshing to come out and see this vast scenery. A soldier from the private army laughed and said, "That's right. It's boring to stay in the fortress all the time." In fact, everyone was like this at the beginning of the journey. They were in the mood to see the scenery and chat and laugh, but it should not be like this in a few days. When Ren Xiaosu went out hunting before, he also felt very comfortable on the first day. Liu Bu invited everyone to get off the car and said, "Everyone, get off the car and eat something. Let's continue on our journey and try to get to Yanling before dark. We went there last time. There is an open space suitable for camping." The people in the off-road vehicle got off the car and talked and laughed. Several soldiers from the private army gathered together to smoke, and everyone's face was filled with satisfaction. Liu Bu called the staff to walk towards the pickup truck. He couldn't order these soldiers around. The reason why he invited 12 soldiers from the private army for this trip was not because he and Luo Zinayu had a lot of face, but because their band was originally here to cover these private troops in carrying out their missions. In this case, others might think that Liu Bu and Luo Zinayu had a lot of face, but they themselves had to understand the importance of the matter. Liu Bu walked towards the pickup truck and said to the band staff around him, "Let's give these soldiers some of the cigarettes we brought later." "Okay, how much should we give them?" asked the staff. "Take out one first. We brought 10. We can give them out slowly," Liu Bu said with a smile. "We have new faces this time. We will get along well after a few days when everyone is familiar with each other." At this moment, Liu Bu came to the back of the pickup truck, but he was shocked when he turned around. "Fuck, Ren Xiaosu, what are you doing?" Ren Xiaosu looked at Liu Bu. "Don't be surprised, I didn't do anything." Burp. Ren Xiaosu couldn't help but stand up to stretch his body after eating a lot, and patted the biscuit crumbs on his body. Liu Bu leaned over the truck bed to look inside, and his heart ached at the time. "Are you a pig? How can you eat so much? You ate 5 packs of biscuits in one morning." To be honest, Ren Xiaosu hadn't eaten so much in a long time. During the poorest days, he depended on Yanling for food. He had only been rich for a few days, and he hadn't had the chance to be extravagant. Besides, the biscuits these people brought were delicious, both sweet and salty. You know, salt and sugar are luxury goods in the market town. Usually, Ren Xiaosu and his friends eat dry-boiled potatoes and the like. How can they eat such delicious food? There's so much water to drink in the car. "Look at what you have eaten in your stomach," Liu Bu roared. "You have been pregnant for 4 months, right? Aren't you feeling uncomfortable?" Ren Xiaosu said unhappily, "Didn't you ask me to sit in this truck? But now that you mention it, I really feel a little uncomfortable." Ren Xiaosu got off the car and ran away. "You guys eat, I'm going to take a shit." When Ren Xiaosu ran away, Liu Bu and his friends were left disheveled in the wind in the wilderness. A staff member of the band hesitated and said, "Let's let him sit in the car." Liu Bu glared at him. "Why should he sit in the car? What right does he, a refugee, have to sit with us, huh?" The staff member's momentum immediately weakened, but he still muttered, "Let him stay in the pickup truck for another 2 days, I'm afraid we won't be able to make it to barrier 112. When Liu Bu heard this, he roughly estimated Ren Xiaosu's appetite, and then sighed, "I really can't make it." In the end, everyone unanimously decided to let Ren Xiaosu sit in the car. However, when Ren Xiaosu came back, he was not happy when he heard that he was asked to sit in the car. "I don't want to sit in the car. Why should I sit with you? I am a refugee. Let me go, let me be with my biscuits. Are you still human?" In the end, everyone worked together to stuff him into the car and it was over. Chapter 41. Solve it yourself. There was a reason why the band staff disliked Ren Xiaosu. As big shots in the refuge barrier, they were even refused to find a guide in the market town, as if being a guide for them was a shameful thing. In their opinion, shouldn't you, Ren Xiaosu, be like the first guide and come up to them on your own initiative? Exclamation mark. Many people hoped that they could have extraordinary relationships in the refuge barrier, because Wang Fuge was right, the big shots in the refuge barrier could let the refugees live well in the market town with just a little bit of their fingers. But Ren Xiaosu's reaction was to avoid them. Therefore, everyone's impression of Ren Xiaosu was not very good, and it became even worse after the cookie incident, especially Liu Du, who now began to persuade Luo Zinayu to go back to the market town to find a guide. "Zinayu, we have only set out for half a day," Liu Bu said. "It's completely in time to go back to the market town now, and it's just a waste of a day." "But that's also a waste," Luo Zinayu said. looking out the window. But think about it, Liu Bu continued, this guy looks very unreliable. What if he becomes even more unreliable in the future? Then we will waste more than one day. I have heard that the refugees in the market town have low quality before, but I didn't expect that their quality is so low. Luo Zinayu shook her head and said, Wang Fuga said that if he can't take us through Jingshan, then no one can. I don't believe it, Liu Bu said disdainfully, the whole market town is so big, how can there be no one to take us through Jingshan? We only asked in the market town before. In fact, there are more people in the 7 factories around. Some of them live in the factories, so we go to the factories to ask and maybe we will find something new. Now there are 6 factories, Luo Zinayu corrected. Just a while ago, one was destroyed by a wolf pack, so there are only 6 left. Then let's go and see the other factories, Liu Bu said awkwardly. Okay, there's no need to discuss this matter, Luo Zinayu denied. It's already very difficult for us to get 12 private troops to escort us this time, so don't make any more trouble. Liu Bu stopped talking. The outside world thought that Luo Zinayu was still young, so many decisions were made by Liu Bu, the agent, but Liu Bu knew best that Luo Zinayu was a very opinionated girl, and he was just Luo Zinayu's executor. Nowadays, there are stars like Luo Zinayu in all major barriers, commonly known as stars. But basically these stars have some supporters in their respective barriers, and it is difficult for them to get out of the shackles of the barriers. After all, the outside world is not as developed as before the disaster, and people's hearts are unpredictable. Going out of the barriers is risky. Previously, there was a star in the number 89 shelter barrier who wanted to cross the barrier to enhance his influence, but he disappeared after leaving the shelter barrier, and his agent and accompanying bodyguards were also missing. It was not until 2 months later that someone found a body suspected to be that of the star in the wilderness. The bullet embedded in his bones showed that he had died of a gunshot wound, and someone had shot him from behind. This made others more alert. But Luo Zinayu was never satisfied with just shining in a refuge barrier. She was willing to take risks even if she knew there was danger. This would require great courage for a girl. Luo Zinayu looked at the silent Liu Bu. You can target him, but don't affect our itinerary. Just let him lead the way. When we come back from barrier number 112, you can do whatever you want to him. Okay, Liu Bu agreed. The car was bumpy and the soldiers of the private army acted as drivers. They had driven the vehicle as safely as possible to avoid irreversible damage to the suspension, chassis, tires and other accessories, but the road was so bumpy that they had no good solution. Ren Xiaosu sat in the back seat of the pilot car and gave directions to the driver from time to time. Originally, there were 20 people in the team, including Ren Xiaosu, and each car could accommodate 4 people. As a result, because Liu Bu did not trust Ren Xiaosu very much, he specially sent 2 band staff members to sit next to Ren Xiaosu and watch him, so that there were only 5 people in the pilot car. The 2 band staff members sat in the back seat with indifference. Originally, the back seat was spacious for 2 people, but as Ren Xiaosu came, no one felt comfortable. And this team that planned to cross Jingshan suddenly looked like it was specially escorting Ren Xiaosu to the number 112 refuge barrier. But Ren Xiaosu thought Liu Bu was a bit childish. There was only a soldier from the private army driving the car, and the remaining 3 were all band staff members. If he really wanted to make trouble, he might make him the only living person in the car within 3 seconds. So these people in the refuge barrier actually had no idea about the living environment of the refugees. They only knew that it was very hard and dirty, and basically their cognition was limited to this. The staff member next to Ren Xiaosu glanced at him and said arrogantly, "You'd better be honest and don't do anything unnecessary." Ren Xiaosu was unhappy. "Is it that important to eat some of your biscuits?" The band staff raised their voices. "Is that just a little? I tell you, after you come out with us, you no longer belong to yourself, do you understand? Don't fight against stones with eggs." The band staff member sitting in the co-pilot seat laughed. "Boy, do you know who will be broken when an egg hits a stone?" Ren Xiaosu pondered for a moment. "My heart is broken." The staff member was stunned. "Whose heart is broken?" Ren Xiaosu replied, "The hen's heart is broken." Ren Xiaosu was quite satisfied with his answer. There was a trace of humanistic care in his wit. That night the convoy passed through the Call of Yunling smoothly, and then the scenery suddenly became clear. There was actually a large forest behind Yunling. Ren Xiaosu looked out the window in a trance. Under the magic of nature, the flat earth was cut in half, forming a staggered gully. Mr. Zhang from the school said that this was a unique landform formed after the movement of the Earth's crust, and Ren Xiaosu sometimes thought that humans were really insignificant. The trees grew tall here, and only a few muddy paths could prove that humans had been here before. The band got lost here when they first came here. Ren Xiaosu had heard Mr. Zhang from the school say that the trees in the tropical rainforest were so dense that it was almost impossible to pass through, but the trees here in the north were relatively sparse, and the grass was just a little taller. As night was about to fall, the convoy finally arrived at the clearing that Liu Bu mentioned. Liu Bu jumped out of the car and laughed loudly. "We're going to camp here today. Let's take a rest and eat something." As soon as he finished speaking, Ren Xiaosu walked towards the pickup truck, but Liu Bu stopped him first. Ren Xiaosu asked in surprise, "What for?" Liu Bu sneered, "We didn't bring your food and water, so you can solve it yourself." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Home is Gone. It seemed that Liu Bu was very dissatisfied with Ren Xiaosu because he ate the biscuits. But in fact, Ren Xiaosu knew in his heart that Liu Bu would treat him badly whether he ate the biscuits or not. So Ren Xiaosu knew whether the team would provide him with food or not. He just didn't expect the other party to be so direct. It was good that Ren Xiaosu was actually quite relaxed. This way, he didn't have to worry about anything. Ren Xiaosu was mentally prepared for the current situation. He turned and walked into the forest, but Liu Bu became anxious. "Where are you going? If you run now, you will never be able to go back to the market town outside the number 113 barrier." If Ren Xiaosu left, they would have wasted time again today. Without a guide, they would never be able to cross the forest and find the way to Jingshan. Ren Xiaosu had to say that he admired this group of people. It was about 5 days away from Jingshan. Luckily, this group of people got lost early last time and finally found the way out. If they went deep into the forest for 2 or 3 days, they might not be able to get out of the forest. This is not a matter of wasting a day. The bigwigs in the refuge fortress, who are used to living a life of luxury and comfort, did not realize at all that they were now in someone's home ground. Of course, Ren Xiaosu could understand that people have inertial thinking. The bigwigs in the refuge fortress have been looking down on refugees for a long time. It is normal that they can't change it at the beginning. Ren Xiaosu turned around and grinned. "I'm going to find something to eat." "Why are you panicking?" "I'm not panicking," Liu Bu explained awkwardly. "I'm reminding you that the last guy died near here. Don't die here inexplicably like him and waste our time. The last time the guide came here and took them on the wrong road, after walking for several days, everyone felt that the direction was wrong, so they turned back and prepared to start again from Yunling. As a result, the guide had an accident when he went to the river to wash his face in the morning." As they were talking, suddenly a staff member said, "There are footprints of wild animals on your land." Ren Xiaosu frowned. What kind of wild animals could be here? Few wild animals live on the edge of the forest, and when humans built these refuge barriers, large wild animals were already blocked outside the barrier circle. Few large wild animals can pass through the protection of the outer barrier and directly enter the barrier number 113. For example, the wolf pack that attacked the factory is very rare. Everyone came over to see what the footprints looked like. The soldiers of the private army were careless. They had guns, so what were they afraid of? As a result, they were all stunned when they saw it. The row of footprints led all the way to the forest. Each footprint was probably half the size of a person's head. Seeing this scene, all the soldiers immediately raised their guns and nervously aimed at the depths of the forest. For some reason, these private troops suddenly felt that even with guns, they could not give themselves too much sense of security. "You didn't see these footprints when you came last time?" Someone trembled. "No," someone shook his head. Ren Xiaosu took a look at the footprints and understood what kind of creature the other party was, and he was relieved immediately. Then he looked at the open space where the band was preparing to camp, and suddenly saw some garbage left by the group of people after they camped last time, and even a lot of food residue. He suddenly said seriously, "This is a bear, attracted by the food residue you left last time." Liu Bu questioned, "Nonsense, Do you think I haven't seen what a bear's claws look like? Ren Xiaosu followed the footprints into the forest. He was not so kind as to tell these bands and private troops everything. Ahem, it could also be a wild boar. The group of people behind him watched Ren Xiaosu enter the forest, as if they were not afraid of the footprints at all, and they were not afraid of the dangers hidden in the forest at all. This kid is too brave. Liu Bu took a breath. Is he going to die? The soldiers of the private army put down their guns. If there was really a terrifying beast, it would not be too late for them to raise their guns after hearing Ren Xiaosu's screams. These private army soldiers looked carefree and not afraid at all, but the trembling voice just now exposed their weakness. Ren Xiaosu walked in the forest. In fact, he could tell at a glance that it was the footprints of a deer. He followed the deer's footprints because following such large wild animals in the forest usually leads to water sources and rivers. Like humans, they need to replenish their body water in time. Moreover, he also wanted to go to the river to see why the guy died. According to Liu Bu's description, the guide washed his face in the river, and then his face was bitten by something and he died on the spot. Ren Xiaosu secretly said that this guy was really stupid. It is well known that the order of species is evolving, but herbivorous species are still herbivorous, and carnivorous species are still carnivorous. This is common sense. This guide was probably like many people in the market town, who all thought that fish survived by eating aquatic plants. However, Ren Xiaosu had read a well-preserved book from Mr. Zhang, which said that there are freshwater fish that only eat meat, such as blackfish and catfish, and most of the others are omnivorous, but there are basically no freshwater fish that only eat vegetables. How can people not eat such a big piece of meat on your face? Ren Xiaosu was glad that he understood the power of knowledge and had been supplementing his knowledge. Otherwise, he might be like the guide and get into trouble at any time. He followed the footprints. Deer are relatively gentle creatures in the forest. If you don't provoke them, you will generally be fine. At this time, Ren Xiaosu saw something like sawdust on a tree. This was clearly the mark left by termites. He looked at the roots of the tree and saw that there was indeed an abnormally raised mound of earth covering the roots of the tree. On the way, Ren Xiaosu kicked the mound open with surprise. The brown termites inside were crawling quickly. This thing was the size of a little finger. It was not very delicious, but it was nutritious. You should know that many people in the market town are malnourished all year round, and they often take termites and termite eggs as supplements. Some people can be happy for several days after finding a termite nest. But termites cannot be eaten raw because they are afraid of secreting formic acid, and Ren Xiaosu is not at the point where he has to eat this stuff. The termites were at a loss on the broken ant nest. Before they could figure out why their home collapsed, Ren Xiaosu had already torn off a large leaf and wrapped up a small piece of the ant nest and the termites on it. He tore off a branch, trimmed it slightly with a bone knife to make a simple harpoon, and was ready to go catch fish. Not far away, Ren Xiaosu turned back. He poked the ant nest with a bone knife for a long time and found the fat white queen ant, and took it away. The termites suffered a devastating disaster. If we don't consider biological ethics, it can be easily described as, the home is gone, and the mother is gone. Chapter 43 First time in life. Ren Xiaosu certainly didn't dig out the termite nest for food. He continued to follow the deer's footprints and walked forward. After a few minutes, he heard the sound of running water. The closer he got to the river, the more alert Ren Xiaosu became. Although it was past the evening when all creatures drank water together by the river, he still had to be alert. What if a wild animal was late because of something at home? Would that just happen to run into Ren Xiaosu? But what made him feel relieved was that he was not so unlucky. Ren Xiaosu opened the leaves that wrapped a small piece of ant nest, and then threw the entire ant nest into the river. At this time, the water flow was not turbulent. Otherwise Ren Xiaosu would have to find a way to block a nest with stones. Then, he used a bone knife to cut a palm-sized queen ant in half and threw it into the river together, and then began to hold the cut branches and wait patiently. The moonlight tonight was particularly bright, otherwise Ren Xiaosu might not be able to see what was in the river. The queen ant and the ant nest slowly drifted downstream along the river, and Ren Xiaosu followed slowly on the shore. Suddenly, a black shadow swam under the ant nest, and the water surface was rippling as a big fish opened its mouth, trying to swallow the ant nest and the queen ant in one gulp. But as soon as it opened its mouth, the branch that Ren Xiaosu had cut was already there. Ren Xiaosu had used this method to catch fish before, But at that time his speed and strength were far inferior, so it took many times to succeed once. Now it was different. He used to be slower than the fish, but now he was faster than the fish. Ren Xiaosu retracted the branch like lightning, and the big black fish kept struggling on the branch, but it was useless. Ren Xiaosu left the riverside little by little cautiously. It seemed that the blood of the black fish attracted something bad, and dense black shadows gradually gathered under the river. Ren Xiaosu was a little suspicious. Were these black shadows fish? He directly eviscerated the big black fish on the shore, and then simply threw all the internal organs into the river. He couldn't take the fish back to the camp to cut it up, because that would inevitably leave a bloody smell around the camp. The leftover biscuit crumbs could attract giant deer, and who knows what the bloody smell would attract. Although there shouldn't be bears or anything like that here, it's always good to be vigilant. And the leftover fish meat and fish bones should be thrown away far away. The next moment, the river seemed to be boiling, and countless fish rushed to plunder the bloody internal organs, and even bit each other. Once a fish was bitten, it would immediately become food for other fish. What a cruel river this is. What would happen if a person fell into it? Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment, because he found that the group of fish suddenly swam away in panic. Ren Xiaosu turned around and left without hesitation. What could scare the group of evil fish? I'm afraid it was something that Ren Xiaosu couldn't afford to fend. On the way back to the camp, Ren Xiaosu kept thinking about what changes had happened in the wilderness today. Why are the beasts evolving, but humans can't see any difference? No, there is a difference. Zhang Baojin, who had shown him supernatural powers, or Yan Luan, for example, aren't they different from before? When Ren Xiaosu returned to the camp, the band and the private troops were eating canned food and porridge. When everyone saw the fish in Ren Xiaosu's hand, they were stunned. They wanted to make fun of Ren Xiaosu in the afternoon, because they all knew that Ren Xiaosu didn't bring any dry food or anything. Ren Xiaosu wore a loose coat, and everyone could tell at a glance whether he brought any dry food or not. So when Liu Bu said that Ren Xiaosu should solve it himself, everyone was gloating. They were all very unhappy with Ren Xiaosu. They always felt that this kid who came from the refugees made people inexplicably uncomfortable, but they couldn't tell where they were uncomfortable. But now, when they were eating canned luncheon meat in the wild, the smell of Ren Xiaosu's grilled fish wafted over. Ren Xiaosu brought an iron cup, a bone knife and a box of matches with him this time, which were his necessities for survival in the wild. Of course, he didn't have to bring matches, and he naturally had his own skills in making fire, but the problem was that it would be easier to bring matches. Who would want to torture themselves? The matchbox wasn't very big. Liu Bu wrinkled his nose when he smelled the aroma of grilled fish. Haha, just a fish. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu heard the palace in his mind say, "Task, good things need to be shared with others." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a long time. He picked up the branch with the fish and walked towards Liu Bu. Liu Bu's eyes lit up and said reservedly, "Why, treat us to fish? It's not impossible." "What are you thinking about?" Ren Xiaosu said. "I just let you take a look and share my happiness." Liu Bu. Task completed, reward 1.0 agility. Sure, Ren Xiaosu was happy. There are many ways to share. Liu Bu was furious. Ren Xiaosu, do you really think I will eat your fish? Ren Xiaosu looked at the fish, which was almost half a meter long and could not be eaten by one person. He looked at Liu Bu and said, "Half a fish for 3 bottles of water." Liu Bu said without hesitation, "Okay." The reason why Ren Xiaosu wanted to change the water was because it was really troublesome for him to get water now. He originally planned to go to the river to get water, but he was scared and gave up. Ren Xiaosu could also find pine needles to squeeze water to drink, but it was too slow to squeeze it bit by bit. It would be more convenient to exchange some water with the other party with something he didn't need. 3 bottles of water, drink 1 bottle tonight and keep 2 bottles for drinking on the way. Come on, everyone, come and eat fish. Liu Bu took the pot they brought and put the half fish that Ren Xiaosu cut for them. What Liu Bu didn't expect was that before he, Luo Zhenai and Yang Xiaojun had eaten it, the group of private army soldiers had already divided the fish. Liu Bu looked at Luo Zhenai in embarrassment. He didn't expect that a group of private army soldiers were so selfish. At this time, Ren Xiaosu was sitting alone beside the fire he had lit, while others were gathered around a large bonfire. The two sides were like people from 2 different worlds, clearly separated. But suddenly, The girl in the cap, Yang Xiaojun, stood up and sat opposite Ren Xiaosu. She said calmly, "Fish." Ren Xiaosu was surprised to find that the other party's tone was a bit unbelievable, but he didn't know what reason to find to refuse her. The light of the bonfire flickered on the girl, and Ren Xiaosu wondered if all the girls in the barrier were so beautiful. "But, girl, can you move the gun in your hand first? You are a perfect gun master pointing a gun at me." I'm a little panicked. Ren Xiaosu had never robbed anyone before, but he had never been robbed before. This was the first time in his life. "I told you to eat 2 bites, just 2 bites," Ren Xiaosu said with all his strength. Chapter 44, Only 2 bites allowed. The light of the campfire flickered, and the rustling sound of the wind blowing through the woods could be heard from the woods. It was the wonderful sound of leaves slapping against each other. This black fish was indeed a bit big, so Ren Xiaosu couldn't finish it by himself, even if he had half of it. But just because he couldn't finish it didn't mean he could be robbed at gunpoint. Yang Xiaojun took out a small salt shaker from the pocket of her sportswear top, holding a black pistol in one hand and sprinkling salt on the fish with a small salt shaker in the other hand. She was not polite to Ren Xiaosu at all. Ren Xiaosu had previously speculated what kind of person Yang Xiaojun was. This girl usually didn't talk and looked very calm. Ren Xiaosu guessed that this girl must have a very cold personality, but he didn't expect her to be so irritable. After Yang Xiaojun sat down, she only said the word fish from beginning to end. This irritability was like a crazy turbulence hidden under the calm sea surface, which was frightening. Ren Xiaosu saw that Yang Xiaojun had evenly sprinkled salt all over the fish, and suddenly he couldn't sit still. He looked at Yang Xiaojun. "Do you have a cumin?" Yang Xiaojun looked up at him. "No." At this time, Ren Xiaosu carefully looked at the gun in Yang Xiaojun's hand. The gun was called M9. The structure of this gun was simple and durable. It seemed that among his advanced firearm skills, the M9 was the most familiar type of pistol. Does that mean that Yang Xiaojun usually uses M9 the most? Yang Xiaojun's hands were not big, but she held the gun tightly in her hands without even a tremor, so when she held the M9, there was a different beauty. The net weight of this gun was only 0.96 kilograms, and it was made of aluminum alloy. Maybe this was why Yang Xiaojun chose this gun. After Yang Xiaojun finished sprinkling salt, he turned to Luo Zinayu and said, "Come and eat fish." Ren Xiaosu. "It's enough for you to eat 2 bites by yourself, why did you invite others?" While they were talking, Liu Bu and Luo Zinayu happily stood up and walked over here, but Yang Xiaojun pointed a gun at Liu Bu and said, "Go back, the owner of the fish doesn't welcome you." Liu Bu stood there awkwardly, not knowing whether to sit or stand. He didn't expect Yang Xiaojun to say that. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. He couldn't understand what Yang Xiaojun's style of doing things was. It seemed a bit interesting. Yang Xiaojun turned his head and looked at Ren Xiaosu. "We'll each have 2 bites, not more." Luo Zinayu sat down and looked at Ren Xiaosu curiously. The atmosphere seemed to be more lively at this time. She smiled and said, "I won't eat your food for nothing. Here, I'll give you 2 bites of this chocolate." As she said that, Luo Zinayu took out a large piece of chocolate from her pocket and handed it to Ren Xiaosu, as if she was interested in exchanging. Ren Xiaosu thought about it and took the chocolate. This was the first time he had seen the real thing. He had only heard Mr. Zhang mention it before. The high-calorie content could quickly replenish physical strength. However, the sugar sold in the Laowen grocery store in the market town was ordinary white sugar, which was very expensive. There was no such thing as chocolate. 2 bites, it seemed to become a tacit agreement among everyone, no one was allowed to eat more. Ren Xiaosu took the chocolate and unwrapped it, then opened his mouth as wide as possible, and stuffed all the chocolate into his mouth in one bite. Luo Zinayu was dumbfounded, and even Yang Xiaojun looked at Ren Xiaosu in a daze. After Ren Xiaosu slowly chewed the chocolate in his mouth, he thought for a moment and said to Luo Zinayu, "You still owe me a bite." Luo Zinayu. Yang Xiaojun. "I have to say that this chocolate is quite delicious." Ren Xiaosu thought that even the food in this refuge barrier is different from that in the market town. The biscuits are so sweet and delicious, and this chocolate also has a peculiar fragrance, bitter at first and sweet later. Ren Xiaosu felt that he had to find a way to exchange some similar food with Luo Zinayu and others on the way, so that he could bring it to Yan Liwen and Sister Xiaoyu when he returned to the market town. Luo Zenai originally wanted to make friends with Ren Xiaosu because she saw that Ren Xiaosu had unique survival skills, so that she could take care of him in case of any problems on the road. People like Luo Zenai are always good at dealing with people, otherwise she would not be able to coax those real big shots in the fortress around. But Luo Zenai didn't expect that Ren Xiaosu would be so difficult to get along with. Or rather, she always felt that Ren Xiaosu might really have some problems with his brain. Luo Zenai ate 2 small bites of fish and turned back to her campfire. She took a piece of chocolate from the car and gave it to Ren Xiaosu, but Ren Xiaosu didn't eat it and stuffed it into his pocket. At this time, Ren Xiaosu turned his head to look at Yang Xiaojun, only to see that Yang Xiaojun actually opened her mouth as wide as possible and almost ate a quarter of the remaining fish in one bite. Ren Xiaosu was shocked at the time. "You're a girl, can't you be more reserved? Even the strong girl Li Yaoqian in the market town would not eat like this." Originally, after Ren Xiaosu changed the water with half of the fish, only half of it was left. After Yang Xiaojun took 2 bites, only 1/4 was left. But for some reason, Ren Xiaosu felt that Yang Xiaojun was not pretentious at all. Everything was straightforward, much better than that celebrity Luo Zenai. However, when Ren Xiaosu saw Yang Xiaojun looking at him, he quickly licked the fish in his hand. "Do you want to eat more?" Yang Xiaojun laughed expressionlessly. "Don't put chocolate on your body, it will melt." That night, everyone set up tents for camping. These people had brightly colored tents in the trunk. 2 people could lie in one tent just right. Only Yang Xiaojun and Luo Zenai's tents were independent. Ren Xiaosu concentrated on throwing all the fish bones and fish meat residues 100 meters away before coming back to make his own temporary bed. The others sat in the tent and watched Ren Xiaosu tossing and turning curiously, thinking that this was a skill for survival in the wild, and it seemed that he was very skilled. Ren Xiaosu moved the original bonfire away and started another one, and put in a lot of pine branches and other durable firewood. The original bonfire had been extinguished and cleaned by Ren Xiaosu, and the hot land had been covered with many pine needles. These pine needles are very easy to find in the woods, and there is a thick layer of them in many places. This kid actually made a bed for himself. Liu Bu saw Ren Xiaosu lying comfortably on the pine needles. It was late autumn, and the place where the bonfire had been burned must be very warm, and there was a bonfire burning next to it. It looked very comfortable. Looking back at them, the tents of the private army had surrounded the bonfire tightly, and the people in their band could only endure the cold outside. Fortunately, there were blankets to cover, otherwise they didn't know how to survive this dark night. And Yang Xiaojun had already pitched her tent next to Ren Xiaosu's bonfire, and didn't show any courtesy to Ren Xiaosu at all. Ren Xiaosu opened his eyes and looked towards Yang Xiaojun's tent. He saw that the curtain of Yang Xiaojun's tent was not drawn, so that it was convenient to observe the surrounding movements. Moreover, the gun in her hand was always pointed in Ren Xiaosu's direction. No, there was actually another gun in her other hand, pointing in the direction of the private army's tent. Thanks to my classmates Liu Li and Xiaoniu on the hillside for becoming the new leaders of this book. Chapter 45. What kind of doctor are you? Compared to Yang Xiaojun's caution, Ren Xiaosu looked at the other people in the team and they seemed to be less vigilant. There were 12 private troops here, but there was not even a night watchman. The snoring in each tent was deafening, and it was obvious that everyone was fast asleep. It was true that the large beasts were blocked outside the barrier circle, but you are too careless. Yang Xiaojun's breathing was even and slender, and it was obvious that he had not entered a deep sleep. Ren Xiaosu felt that he should be cautious because he had seen many people stabbed to death at night, but what kind of living environment had Yang Xiaojun developed such a habit? He felt that a person's past experiences determined his current thinking and habits, and Yang Xiaojun must have experienced extremely dangerous situations. At dawn, Ren Xiaosu went to the place where he threw the fish bones while everyone was still asleep. Last night, he specially left some fish meat to see if any beasts would be attracted. Many people fear wild animals because they think that wild animals are so ferocious that they will not be afraid of humans. However, wild animals are not so reckless. In fact, most wild animals are very alert. Ordinary lone wild animals will probably leave when they see so many tents here, but the fish bones and fish meat are far away from the camp, which should allow the wild animals to leave some clues. Ren Xiaosu carefully approached the area where the fish bones and fish meat were thrown, and kept an eye out for any traces of wild animals around, but he never found anything. But when he got there, he suddenly found that all the fish meat and bones on the ground were gone, and there were no footprints of wild animals around. Ren Xiaosu immediately pulled out the bone knife in his sleeve to concentrate and be alert. While being on guard, he retreated carefully. Did ants take away the bones and fish meat? It is possible. Nowadays, ants are as big as the tip of a finger. If there is an ant nest nearby, it is normal to move the place clean in one night. But Ren Xiaosu still had doubts in his heart. When he returned to the camp, everyone was ready to pack up and leave. Everyone was folding the tent and stuffing it back into the trunk of the off-road vehicle. Liu Bu continued to complain to Luo Zinayu, "Zinayu, you shouldn't have traded chocolate with him. How can refugees eat such things?" Luo Zinayu ignored him. She didn't expect to lose 2 chocolates. The convoy set off. They finally began to go deeper into the woods according to the road guided by Ren Xiaosu. The sunlight in the sky shone through the tree canopy, and the whole forest looked particularly pleasant. At this time, everyone had long forgotten the fear brought to them by the giant deer footprints last night. Ren Xiaosu even heard the sound of singing from the car behind, and a group of soldiers from the private army told dirty jokes and laughed. It seemed that everyone came here for a picnic. There was a short section of the road that was close to the river. Ren Xiaosu said to the driver, "Try to stay away from the river." In fact, he didn't know what dangers there were in the river, but the scene last night left a deep impression on him. The driver didn't take it seriously. "We are still far from the river, and there are only a few fish in the river. Can the fish jump onto the shore and bite you? Just don't go in to swim." Ren Xiaosu stopped talking. He just made his own decision. If the crisis came, he must get rid of these idiots and escape from danger quickly. At this moment, the pilot car where Ren Xiaosu was suddenly braked, and the driver of the private army said in panic, "In front." Ren Xiaosu turned his head and saw a huge red deer. Red deer are the largest deer after moose. They are huge in size. They like to live in groups and feed on grass, leaves, twigs, bark and fruits. They like to lick salt and alkali. The red deer in front of them is probably more than 2 meters tall. It is standing quietly on the road and looking at the convoy. The convoy fell into a state of tension. The private troops picked up their automatic rifles and pulled the bolts. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound in the woods. 2 smaller red deer came out. They seemed to be the children of the first one. Su Xianchu's voice came from the car intercom, "Don't shoot." The elk didn't seem to be aggressive. It just looked at the convoy and asked a question like, "What the hell is this?" and then prepared to leave. Everyone in the convoy breathed a sigh of relief and felt a little relieved. The soldier from the private army laughed and said, "It's just a herbivore. Look how scared you are. There won't be any large carnivorous beasts here." At this moment, everyone started to tease each other again, as if they were not the ones who were nervous just now. However, at this moment, the elk suddenly rushed towards the convoy, with its head lowered and its huge antlers facing the pilot car. The driver of the pilot car cursed and quickly stepped on the accelerator to hide in the woods. At this time, he didn't care whether he would hide a tree and overturn the car. Fortunately, when the giant deer arrived, the pilot car turned in time and passed by the antlers, but the vehicles behind were not so lucky. The antlers were so tough that they were like forklift handles that stabbed into the hood of the car, and then the whole car was thrown out with a shake of its head. Before the private soldiers of other vehicles got off, the giant deer had already run into the woods with its 2 children, as if it was just going to do something and run. Someone fired wildly at the giant deer's back, but they couldn't hit it at all. Their shooting skills were also surprisingly poor. The vehicle that Ren Xiaosu and his team were in crashed into a tree beside the dirt road because of the high speed. The hood was deformed and a lot of white smoke came out of it. At this time, someone shouted from the direction of the convoy, "Come and save people." Liu Bu's voice sounded, "Isn't that refugee a doctor in the market town? Let him come and save people." Ren Xiaosu got out of the car and walked towards the convoy, but when he got there, he found that the driver of the second car only had a little scratch on his arm. What's the big deal? Death has been with every refugee since childhood, just like a trivial matter in life. A scratch like this is really not worth mentioning. Ren Xiaosu frowned. He had no intention of treating this guy. A player from a private army like this was not worth wasting his black medicine. He was just surprised why this giant deer suddenly showed aggressiveness. Liu Bu pushed Ren Xiaosu and shouted, "Aren't you a doctor? Hurry up and save him. Oh, Ren Xiaosu agreed and muttered to the driver's wound, heal quickly, heal quickly, heal quickly. Liu Bu was stunned. How can you treat injuries like this? What kind of doctor are you? Ren Xiaosu pondered for a moment and asked tentatively, which doctor? Chapter 46 Mysterious Death. Because of preconceived notions, in fact, this group of people did not really believe that Ren Xiaosu was the only doctor in the town. When they first met Ren Xiaosu, he was still living in a shack. After only a few days of not seeing each other, he became a doctor? If you really have medical skills, what were you doing before? At this moment, everyone was just in a desperate situation. There is an old saying that can perfectly describe the current situation, called desperate to try any doctor. However, Ren Xiaosu's reaction really shocked them. What the hell is a witch doctor? Get up. Liu Bu pushed Ren Xiaosu aside, and then went up to ask the injured driver about his health. Are you okay? Does it hurt? Ren Xiaosu looked around. There were originally 5 off-road vehicles and 1 pickup truck, a total of 6 vehicles, but now there are only 4 left. It seems that the 2 broken cars are difficult to repair, but Ren Xiaosu doesn't know much about cars, so he has to see what the soldiers in the private army say. Officer Su Xianchu took people to check. The one that was knocked over by Jilu must be irreparable. There are several holes in the engine. But the giant ear was not unscathed. Ren Xiaosu saw a small section of antler on the ground, which looked like it was broken. Liu Bu went to Su Xianchu and asked, can it be repaired? We need to check the one that was knocked over, Su Xianchu said after checking the vehicle. That one is definitely broken. The car that hit the tree was not going very fast, so the damage was not too serious. Now we can only remove the parts of that car and repair a drivable one. Only one car can be repaired. Liu Bu was stunned for a moment. What should we do? There are so many of us. Su Xianchu thought for a while and said, people can sit in the pickup truck bed. Ren Xiaosu raised his hand. I'll go. Go to hell, Liu Bu said angrily. At this moment, even if Liu Bu went to the pickup truck bed himself, he would not let Ren Xiaosu sit there. Su Xianchu and his men hurriedly took tools to repair the car. During this time, Su Xianchu frowned and ordered his soldiers, keep martial law around, and shoot to death if any unknown creatures approach. The bureaucracy in the private army may be strong, but Su Xianchu does not look like a fool. If he is not alert at this time, it will be too late. If a giant creature approaches while the car is being repaired, many people will die. Ren Xiaosu has been squatting beside the car and watching these private troops repair the car. He wants to see what the principle of this car is. He has always been a very studious person, and large machinery such as off-road vehicles has a unique beauty in his eyes. Civilization restarts. Every bit of it represents the crystallization of human civilization. Liu Bu folded his arms and sneered, do you understand? Ren Xiaosu turned around and asked him, I don't understand, then do you understand? Liu Bu was stunned for a moment. In fact, he didn't understand either. Look, I don't understand either, and you don't understand either, Ren Xiaosu said slowly, then what are you talking about? After that, Ren Xiaosu ignored him. The repairs lasted from morning to afternoon, and Liu Bu and his friends were discussing how to allocate vehicles in the future and the usual defense work. Some people said that they would just shoot when they saw such creatures in the future. Some people said what if they startled the other party by shooting? With the physique of the giant deer, you might not be able to shoot through its head, unless you aim at its eyes, but who here has such a good shooting skill? At least you have to be able to hit the target with a level of more than 9 rings when moving the target, right? At this time, Ren Xiaosu thought to himself, it seems that these people don't know that Yang Xiaojin is a perfect gunmaster. Can other view it? Ren Xiaosu is now 60% sure that he can hit the giant deer's eyes with a pistol within 50 meters, so he thinks that Yang Xiaojin must be more than 90% sure, or even 100%. Ren Xiaosu secretly observed Yang Xiaojin's reaction. As a result, when others discussed how to deal with these beasts, she didn't say a word as if it had nothing to do with her. However, everyone also felt that it was a little comforting that the giant deer still didn't eat meat. If the giant deer just now came for food, I'm afraid that at least 3 or 4 people in the team would have died. Su Xianchu said, there should be mostly large herbivores in these woods, otherwise they would have been listed as key targets when the barrier circle was established. The first thing we should do when we encounter such creatures is to be vigilant and not alarm them. Once we encounter a carnivore, Just shoot. Okay, the car has been repaired, let's get ready to go. Liu Bu replied, well, we are one car short, so we have to readjust the passengers, he said to a band staff member. Su Xia, you and Cheng Donghang go sit in the bed of the pickup truck. Be patient for a while. The two band staff members named Su Xia and Cheng Donghang looked at Ren Xiaosu with resentment. They could have let Ren Xiaosu sit in the pickup truck, but because Liu Bu was worried that Ren Xiaosu would eat all the biscuits and other things, he had to let their own people watch over him. Su Xia and Cheng Donghang crawled into the bed of the truck reluctantly, but suddenly heard Su Xia scream and fall out of the bed. Ren Xiaosu looked in astonishment, only to see that Su Xia was covering his neck and wailing. Su Xia's face was already red and swollen, as if he was experiencing the greatest pain he had ever experienced in his life. In just over 10 seconds, before anyone could react, he was already lying on the ground motionless, spitting white foam from his mouth, and his face quickly turned blue and purple. Su Xianchu approached carefully with a gun, and after finding nothing unusual nearby, he reached out to feel Su Xia's breath. He turned his head and said solemnly, he's dead. Everyone stood there in a daze for a moment. How could a person who was fine just now die? Liu Bu asked Cheng Donghang tremblingly, what happened? Cheng Donghang leaned against the truck bed and said in fear, I don't know. We got on the car together, and he suddenly screamed and scared me. I didn't see anything strange. The rustling sound in the woods became weird. The trees were still the same trees, but everyone's mood was different. This was the first death during their trip. Liu Bu yelled at Ren Xiaosu, what route did you take? Why didn't we encounter this last time? Is there something wrong with the route you took? There is nothing wrong with the route I took, Ren Xiaosu looked at Liu Bu calmly, but even if you are in the barrier, you should understand that this wilderness has become more and more weird. I don't know why you entered the mountain, but I advise you to turn around and go back to barrier number 113 now. No, Su Xianchu said coldly, we have received a death order this time. We don't have to go back if we don't complete the mission, and you don't have to think about going back either. Ren Xiaosu thought to himself, that's not right. It's just a mission. It's impossible for Su Xianchu to risk his life to complete it. There must be other reasons. The new book list has been pushed to second place. Please vote for recommendation. Chapter 47, Weird Forest. Seeing that he couldn't turn back, Liu Bu said to Ren Xiaosu, you go in the pickup truck alone, Cheng Donghang, you go in the car. He sneered, since you said you didn't take the wrong road, then you face the danger. At this time, he didn't care whether Ren Xiaosu ate the biscuits or not, after all, no one wanted to die. And compared to eating some biscuits, life and death were obviously more important. Ren Xiaosu ignored him and went to check Su Xia's injuries. He took away Su Xia's hand covering his neck and saw a long stinger on Su Xia's neck. Ren Xiaosu recognized what it was at a glance, a wasp. He turned his back to the people behind him and quietly pulled out the stinger, because he didn't want others to know how Su Xia died. The atmosphere in the team became more and more weird. Sometimes, making this group of people afraid of the wilderness is more beneficial to him as a guide. Ren Xiaosu never thought that he was a good person, and he had no obligation to tell others everything. The most important thing was to survive. However, Ren Xiaosu was relieved. As long as it wasn't some mysterious species attacking humans, it would be fine. In fact, he was also shocked just now. Now, according to Ren Xiaosu's inference, there might be a wasp staying in the truck bed, and Su Xia's movement of climbing the car startled the wasp, so the wasp gave him this attack. But I didn't expect that the wasp sting would be so fatal now. Was it the swelling of the neck that caused suffocation? No, that's not right. If it was suffocation, it wouldn't kill him directly in more than 10 seconds. It would take at least a while. It seems that it's a problem with the bee venom. When Ren Xiaosu was a child, he was also stung by a wasp, but only half of his face was swollen for a few days, and he didn't die. This wilderness is getting more and more dangerous. Sometimes Ren Xiaosu has very contradictory feelings in his heart. On the one hand, he is attracted by this mysterious wilderness and wants to know the secrets of this wilderness. On the other hand, he knows that he may die if he is too curious. People are multifaceted, and their thoughts are always complicated. This is what people are like. The shadow of death enveloped the entire team, and the most relaxed person in the team was Ren Xiaosu. Su Xianchu came to check the wound but could only see a red spot on the neck. Ren Xiaosu observed everyone's reactions, and Yang Xiaojun also pretended to accidentally observe Su Xia's wound, but Yang Xiaojun also frowned. Only Ren Xiaosu knew that Su Xia was actually just stung by a wasp that had evolved in the wilderness. What should we do with Su Xia's body? We can't just abandon him in the wilderness, can we? Someone said. Then what else can we do? Liu Bu frowned. He was planning to throw Su Xia here directly. It would take time to bury him, and he didn't want to stay in this damn place for a moment. Luo Zinayu said, put him in the pickup truck bed, leave here first, and bury him in a suitable place. As the leader of the band, she was going to abandon Su Xia here. What would others think of her? If it got out in the future, it would be a stain on her reputation. When Liu Bu heard this, he immediately decided, Ren Xiaosu, carry Su Xia to the truck bed, and you sit in the truck bed too. Ren Xiaosu had no objection. He hadn't eaten biscuits for more than a day and missed them. As for staying with the corpses, he had no psychological pressure. He was not afraid of so many corpses left behind when the wolves attacked the factory before. The people in the barrier had a fear of life and death, but Ren Xiaosu only had respect for life and death, not fear. The convoy set off again. Ren Xiaosu sat in the truck bed, eating biscuits and drinking bottled water, while muttering to Su Xia, you said you had nothing to do but you had to run out. Well, you're dead, right? Hey, what do you think it's like inside your fortress? Many of us outside are starving to death, and you actually still have the mood to listen to music and praise celebrities. You have transported all the pork in, and we can't eat it either. Ren Xiaosu is simply idle, but the two buddies in the driver's seat and the co-pilot seat of the pickup truck didn't think so. Suddenly, they heard Ren Xiaosu's voice vaguely on the way. The driver's scalp numbed, and he asked the co-pilot's brother, who is he talking to? I don't know, maybe he's talking to himself. Do you think he has a mental illness? The convoy failed to find a particularly suitable place to camp that night, and could only barely find a small open space. No one was in the mood to chat and brag today, and only silence remained. The next morning, Ren Xiaosu got up and stretched. He didn't go to find something to eat last night, after all, he was almost full from eating biscuits. Originally, the chocolates were also placed in the truck bed, but Liu Bu, the old man, was alert and carried the chocolates to his car. There was no place to put the box of chocolates in their car, so Liu Bu carried it all afternoon. Ren Xiaosu planned very well. He didn't need to eat in the morning. After the convoy was on the road, he could eat whatever he wanted in the truck bed. But at this moment, he heard a scream. He turned his head and looked in the direction of the pickup truck. A soldier from the private army shouted, "Where's the body of Su Xia? Has anyone seen his body?" Everyone was stunned on the spot. Isn't it in the car? The body is gone. This time, Ren Xiaosu's scalp was numb. What happened? The body was placed well in the truck bed. How could it disappear? The weight of a normal adult man is between 140 and 180 kilograms. It is very difficult for one person to carry a body. It is impossible that there is no movement at all. There were so many people present, how could no one hear the noise? Who moved Su Xia's body? At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly remembered the fish bones and fish meat he had thrown away before, which seemed to disappear in the same way. There was no trace, and it was impossible to tell what did it. At that time, he guessed it was ants, but this time it couldn't be ants. No matter how evolved the ants were, they couldn't move such a large body in one night. Now, Ren Xiaosu's heart was also shrouded in a shadow. He frowned and thought, what on earth did it? Liu Bu looked at Su Xianchu with trembling all over. Sir, let's go back. This is too weird. Su Xianchu pointed his gun and looked out. I'm as scared as you, but we brothers can't go back without completing the mission. From now on, we can only be refugees. If we can't go back, you can't go back either. But this forest is really weird. Liu Bu almost cried. Get in the car and leave this damn place. Su Xianchu roared. From this moment on, Ren Xiaosu always held the bone knife in his hand. His brain became fully active, always on guard against any danger. Chapter 48 All human behavior is driven by death. Why did Su Xia's body disappear? Where did the missing body go? These two questions are like shadows that linger in everyone's mind. And Ren Xiaosu has been thinking about a question. If the other party can make such a large body disappear quietly, then why not attack the living? With the strength of the other party, it can definitely cause extremely heavy casualties to the entire camp in the dead of night. There is something strange about this. Everyone is sitting in the car, only Ren Xiaosu is sitting in the pickup truck. When they came, everyone opened the car windows and talked, laughed, and sang. As a result, everyone closed the car windows now, fearing that something unclean would suddenly come in and take everyone's life. They think that one more layer of car windows can make them safer. And Ren Xiaosu sat in the car bed and looked at the receding woods in his field of vision. The shadows of the swaying leaves seemed to hide murderous intent. It must be said that even Ren Xiaosu was a little scared. But what can be done? Eat a cookie to calm down. Every time Ren Xiaosu thought of a guest that might scare him, he would eat a cookie to calm down. In fact, Ren Xiaosu felt that sitting in a car was as unsafe as sitting in a pickup truck. On the contrary, he was in good physical condition now, and the pickup truck had a wide field of vision. Once there was danger, he could find a way out and countermeasures in the first time. You have to know that in this whole team, except for Yang Xiaojin, whose strength was unknown, no one else could run faster than him. Ren Xiaosu didn't think about whether to save others when danger came. He was not stupid. This group of people didn't provide food for him as a guide, and made him sit in the truck. It was good enough that Ren Xiaosu didn't retaliate against them. Everyone fled forward as if there was a monster chasing them from behind. When Liu Bu was in the car, he was still persuading Su Xianshu, "Commander, let's go back and explain it clearly to the barrier. Your boss won't really be so ruthless to drive you out of the barrier." But Su Xianshu didn't answer. If it was someone else, the boss might really not be so heartless, but he was different. Wang Konggyang and Su Xianshu, two officers of the private army, had offended their bosses. In fact, Ren Xiaosu had already seen this. When something happened in the wilderness in the middle of the night, Wang Konggyang was the first one to be sent out. After Ren Xiaosu and Luo Zhenyu asked to replace Wang Konggyang, the other party sent Su Xianshu out. Those officers who were popular in the fortress were enjoying a good life in the fortress. Only those who were not welcomed would be squeezed out to the wilderness to perform tasks. Otherwise, who would be willing to leave home and fight in the middle of the night? Soldiers before the disaster all had a sense of honor, but Ren Xiaosu thought that these private armies did not have this kind of thing. In fact, Su Xianshu and Wang Konggyang's positions in the private army were very awkward. Their superiors wanted to suppress them. This time they found a legitimate reason. If they failed to complete the task, they probably would not be able to go back. However, Ren Xiaosu still had doubts. He looked around and finally whispered to Yang Xiaojin, "Is such a force really reliable? The barrier depends on them to defend, but they look like a mob when they are in danger." Yang Xiaojin glanced at him and said something that confused Ren Xiaosu. "The consortium's army is the consortium's army, and the barrier's army is the barrier's army. The consortium does not want these barriers to have strong armed forces." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a long time. What does the consortium's army look like? This Su Xianshu is obviously smarter and stronger than other soldiers. Ren Xiaosu has never seen him smoking or slacking off along the way. His back is always straight. Who are the officers who were excluded? At least two people Ren Xiaosu knew. One was Wang Konggyang, the other was Su Xianshu. I won't talk about Su Xianshu. Wang Konggyang also showed his meticulous logic when searching Ren Xiaosu, which was completely different from the soldiers of these private troops. Wang Konggyang even showed his contempt for private troops in front of Ren Xiaosu. So were Su Xianshu and Wang Konggyang excluded because they didn't want to go along with the crowd? Ren Xiaosu even speculated with the greatest malice that even the cigarettes might be provided by the consortium. The consortium carefully planned for many years and finally turned the armed forces of the barrier into waste. Ren Xiaosu couldn't be sure whether his speculation was right or not, but Mr. Zhang said that if technology was in the hands of a few people, then it would be natural for the armed forces to be in the hands of a few people. However, he still had doubts about Su Xia's matter. Would the living be attacked? Otherwise, why were the living people fine? Why was the refuge barrier so interested in the pre-disaster ruins hidden in the Jingshan mountain? Could it be that the dangers they encountered now all came from this pre-disaster ruins? Su Xianshu said coldly, "Now I take over the wartime management of everyone. You have no right to ask about any plans in the future." Liu Bu opened his mouth and hesitated. He found that Su Xianshu was serious. At noon, the convoy took a short rest at a place called Keishibi. The formation of this colorful stone wall is also related to the movement of the Earth's crust. It is a cliff formed by the compression of the plate. The rock layer on the stone wall is colorful. It got its name when private troops came to the woods to clear wild beasts in the early years. Liu Bu held the stone wall and wiped the sweat and said, "It's almost winter. Why is it getting hotter as we go north?" Ren Xiaosu sat aside and burped and said, "There are several volcanoes in the Jingshan Mountains ahead, and they are not extinct volcanoes. The internal movement is very frequent. Many people in the team have never been here, so they are a little surprised. They have always thought that volcanoes should be things very far away from everyone. Unexpectedly, there are several in Jingshan." However, Su Xianchu was obviously very clear about the topography of Jingshan Mountain, so he was not surprised. After all, the private army would definitely give him some information if they asked him to carry out the mission. The private army had been here before, so it was natural for them to have seen the volcano. But Su Xianchu was puzzled. The seniors in this private army were so unprofessional that they didn't even map the area after clearing out the beasts that crossed Jingshan Mountain. Now there is not even an accurate map of the entire area between the major barriers. Liu Bu went to the pickup to get food to distribute to everyone, but when he saw that there were so many less biscuits, he almost fainted. He asked Ren Xiaosu tremblingly, "Why did you eat so many biscuits?" Burp. Ren Xiaosu patted his chest. "I'm sitting in the truck alone. What's wrong with eating some of your biscuits to calm my nerves?" Suddenly, a whistling sound came from the north. The sound was extremely weird. All the private troops raised their guns and aimed at the northern road. Ren Xiaosu said, "Help me up quickly. Let me eat another biscuit to calm my nerves." Liu Bu. Luo Zinai looked at Ren Xiaosu. "You must know what that sound is." Su Xianchu pointed the gun at Ren Xiaosu. "Don't hide it." Ren Xiaosu raised his eyebrows and said, "That's the sound of Lao Fengkao. The passage to the Grand Canyon of Jingshan is not far away. When the huge wind passes through the canyon, it will make this kind of sound. There's no need to make a fuss." At this time, everyone realized that it was very useful to have an experienced guide in the team. It was not until this time that everyone suddenly began to recognize Ren Xiaosu's value in the fear in their hearts. At least now everyone is not so scared when they hear the whistling sound. The original plan might take 3 to 5 days to reach this canyon, but the power of fear made the team speed up. If nothing goes wrong, we will be in front of the Lao Fengkao Canyon tonight. Mr. Zhang in the school said in his lectures that all the motivations for human behavior come from death. Because you don't want to die, you have to eat, and because you don't want to die, you survive desperately. But now, everyone is in a mountain range where death may occur at any time. This death is like a shot of adrenaline, making everyone doubly sober and more eager to get out alive. Due to special circumstances today, update in advance. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 No Living Person Allowed. The convoy was driving very fast now. On the one hand, this section of the road was indeed flatter, and on the other hand, everyone felt that as long as they drove fast enough, they could leave the danger behind. In the evening, when the setting sun shone obliquely from the sky, the convoy finally came out of the woods and saw the towering stone wall and canyon in front of them. The stone wall was like a step suddenly rising from the earth. After getting off the car, they raised their heads and their necks were sore to see the end of the stone wall above, and there was no edge at all on the left and right sides. This is the ladder of nature, as if you can climb to the sky by stepping on this ladder. The Lao Fengkao Canyon looked as narrow as a black line from a distance, but when they got closer, they found that the canyon was wide enough to accommodate 5 or 6 cars at the same time. The huge mountain wind passed through the canyon, making a whistling sound. When someone stood at the mouth of the canyon, he couldn't stand and was almost knocked down by the wind. The magic and grandeur of nature were fully reflected at this moment. Suddenly Liu Bu shouted, "Come and see." Liu Bu was seen standing next to the Lao Fengkao Canyon, pointing at a place on the stone wall and shouting, "There are words here." Everyone walked over to take a look, and saw that someone had carved 4 words as big as heads on the stone wall, "No living person allowed to enter." Su Xianchu looked at Ren Xiaosu, "Who carved this?" Ren Xiaosu shook his head. These 4 words were not there when I came here last year. Why did you come here? Liu Bu said sharply. How far is this place from the market town? Even if you are hunting, you shouldn't come to such a place. Who are you? You must have hidden your identity. Ren Xiaosu nodded and said, yes, there is something I haven't told you. I am actually a descendant of the dragon. Liu Bu. Su Xianshu. Luo Zhenyu. There are too many suspicious points about you now. Su Xianshu pointed the gun at Ren Xiaosu and said, you must explain why you came here last year. This place is sparsely populated. Barrier number 113 has not sent anyone here for many years. This is the road from barrier number 112 to barrier number 113, but no one from barrier number 112 has been here this year, so it is very likely that you are the only one who has been here in this year. Did you carve the words? Ren Xiaosu thought for a moment and said, the words are carved very high. With my height, I can't reach them without moving a stone to stand on. And I am just as surprised as you are why there are these 4 words here. I am also very confused about who did it. Ren Xiaosu was not lying about this. These 4 words were indeed not carved by him. You haven't told me why you came here. Liu Bu shouted, have you calculated how far it is from the market town? Everyone looked at Ren Xiaosu. Although their driving speed was not as fast as people's running speed, the 3-day journey was far enough. There was no reason for Ren Xiaosu to run to this place. Ren Xiaosu was silent for a while and said, last year, I encountered a wolf pack in Yunling and was chased here by the wolf pack. This was also true. You're talking nonsense, Liu Bu retorted. How could a child like you survive in the mouth of a wolf pack? Tell me, why did the wolf pack let you go? The wolf pack's target was not me at the time. I just happened to be there. I ran into the woods in a panic. I thought the wolf pack would leave me alone, but I didn't expect them to chase me. As for how I survived, after I entered the Liao Fengkao Canyon, they stopped chasing me. I hid in the Liao Fengkao Canyon for 2 days. I came out after they ran away. I didn't recognize the way inside, and I had never been there. Everyone was stunned. After they got here, even the wolf pack didn't chase them? Is there really something terrifying behind this canyon? And the words engraved on the stone wall of the canyon may be that some kind-hearted person discovered the secret of Jingshan after entering, and then warned others not to go forward. Everyone believed what Ren Xiaosu said, but this time Ren Xiaosu didn't tell the truth. He was indeed chased in by the wolf pack, but the wolf pack did not stop there, but continued to chase him. As for how Ren Xiaosu survived, he couldn't really explain it, because he lost consciousness the moment he encountered the wolf pack. When he woke up, he was covered in wounds, but the wolves were gone. He was already exhausted when he struggled back to the market town. It was this time that made him realize how terrifying the wolf pack was, but it was also after this encounter with the wolf pack that a black fog appeared in his mind. Ren Xiaosu spent the past year thinking about what the black fog in his mind had to do with the coma, and what happened during the coma. Someone suddenly said, do you know about those extraordinary people? This word might have been left by some extraordinary person. Some of them have long transcended the scope of normal humans. It's not surprising that they can walk freely in the wilderness. The person who spoke was a soldier from a private army. As a result, Su Xianshu glared at him and said, this is a military secret. Why are you pretending? We were all excluded. How long do you think you can be an officer? The soldier sneered, even if the mission is completed this time, do you really think Ma Xin will let you go when you go back? Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. This private army was so chaotic that the order within the army was so chaotic that soldiers dared to contradict their superiors at will? Unconsciously, Ren Xiaosu's impression of this private army was a little worse. In the description of Mr. Zhang in the school, the army before the disaster was strictly disciplined, and it was a collective will like steel. Su Xianshu looked at the soldier who spoke. If he doesn't let me go, I will ask you to get out before I leave. Now you'd better shut up, otherwise I will treat you as a deserter. The soldier who spoke was silent, but Liu Bu and Luo Zhenyu were curious. What happened to those extraordinary people? I heard that you captured 3 extraordinary people in our fortress some time ago. Su Xianshu hesitated and said, this matter has nothing to do with you. We are just following orders from our superiors. Then should we go in? Liu Bu suddenly pleaded, sir, let's go back. It's too dangerous in here. Su Xianshu finally wavered. He glanced at the sky and sighed, it's getting late anyway. Let's camp here tonight. Let's discuss the issue of whether to go or stay, and then make a decision. How about it? Liu Bu and the others certainly agreed. As long as they didn't move forward, everything would be fine. Ren Xiaosu looked into the depths of the canyon. The straight walls on both sides of the canyon almost connected to the sky. A ray of light was cast through the cracks in the canyon above, but the light seemed to have run out inside the canyon. The deeper he looked, the darker it became. Chapter 50, Canyon Terror. Ren Xiaosu no longer had to go out to find food. In the fear of death, Liu Bu even ignored Ren Xiaosu and food. What they were thinking about now was how to survive tonight, or how to get out alive, instead of worrying about what to eat at night. Some people didn't even set up tents tonight, fearing that staying in the tents would delay their escape, but Su Xianchu stopped them. Put up the tents. It's late autumn now. If you don't even have a tent to shelter from the wind, you won't be able to get out of the mountain if you get sick. Everyone lit a bonfire and sat around the huge bonfire in silence. Although they didn't dare to go far when picking up firewood, nor did they dare to go into the woods again, they picked up a lot of firewood with their concerted efforts. It seemed that the bigger the flame, the safer they felt. This time, Ren Xiaosu didn't light a fire alone, because Su Xianchu asked him to join the discussion. Why is he sitting here? Liu Bu said dissatisfiedly. How can we sit with refugees? Ren Xiaosu, sit back. No one refuted Liu Bu, because they didn't need to fence someone like Liu Bu because of a refugee. Originally, everyone was sitting in a circle, but Liu Bu forced Ren Xiaosu to sit outside alone, as if he was just listening in. They did need some advice from Ren Xiaosu, but Liu Bu thought that Ren Xiaosu should just sit in the back and answer whatever they asked. However, Su Xianchu was much more rational than Liu Bu. Stop talking about irrelevant things. We should seriously discuss whether to stay or go. It was Su Xianchu who insisted on going to Jingshan before, because he had to consider his own future and his situation in the barrier, but now he also wanted to retreat. Even if he was driven out of the refuge barrier and became a refugee, it would be better than dying here. Soldiers in the private army trust the cold guns in their hands, but when they find that the guns may not be able to solve the problems they are facing, they will feel great fear. Their greatest reliance can no longer provide them with a sense of security. Su Xianchu saw that everyone had quieted down and said, now we are facing a dilemma. On the one hand, we have to pass through this canyon, but there are unknown dangers in the canyon, and there may even be creatures that those extraordinary people find difficult to deal with. Otherwise, it is difficult to explain who came here alone and left the words, no living people allowed to enter. On the other hand, Su Xianchu continued, there are hidden dangers in the woods. Su Xia's mysterious death and the mysterious disappearance of Su Xia's body are unsolved mysteries, so we are not sure what we will encounter on the way back. Luo Zinayu suddenly said, in fact, although there have been dangers in the woods, it is not enough to wipe out our entire army. After all, there are still so many people alive after we came here, but it is hard to say about the dangers behind the canyon. I think it is better for us to face the woods. Only one person died when they crossed the woods. Even if another person died on the way back, it might not be them who would be unlucky, so turning back was probably their best choice. But Su Xianchu was still a little entangled. Should he really go back? He didn't know how he would face the boss and the barrier after he went back. Everyone fell silent again. Ren Xiaosu looked at Yang Xiaojun and found that she was still very calm, as if she didn't care whether she stayed or left. Wait, could Yang Xiaojun be the legendary extraordinary person? Ren Xiaosu couldn't confirm it, but for some reason he suddenly felt that Yang Xiaojun's purpose of coming here seemed different from everyone else's. When they were eating fish, Ren Xiaosu thought that Yang Xiaojun might be Luo Zinayu's friend, so he came to protect Luo Zinayu. But the problem was that Luo Zinayu and Yang Xiaojun didn't show a particularly close relationship, they were just employer and employee. Ren Xiaosu was somewhat yearning for the extraordinary people that Su Xianchu and the others talked about, but he was not jealous, because he himself was also a so-called extraordinary person, but he had not grown up yet. Luo Zinayu observed Su Xianchu's expression and said, Commander, are you worried about the situation when you return to the barrier? Don't worry about that. After you go back, I can help you find someone to transfer from the private army, even if it's just to do civilian work. Su Xianchu was stunned for a moment. Really? Luo Zinayu said seriously, Luo Zinayu, still have some influence in the barrier. These words seemed to help Su Xianchu finally make up his mind. Okay, then we will set off early tomorrow morning and avoid the refuge barrier. At this moment, the wind in the canyon stopped, the huge noise suddenly disappeared, and the whole forest became quiet. But in this silence, everyone suddenly heard chewing sounds coming from the pickup truck. Everyone's hair stood up. Liu Bu trembled and said, "What's that sound?" "It seems to be in the pickup truck's cargo box." Everyone looked over in horror. They couldn't figure it out. Aren't there only supplies in the pickup truck's cargo box? Ren Xiaosu was beside them. Where did the sound in the pickup truck's cargo box come from? Su Xianchu's face darkened in an instant after he was frightened. "I really don't believe that anything can stop bullets." As he said that, he called the private army to slowly approach the pickup truck. The chewing sound should have lasted for a while, but they didn't hear it because the wind in the canyon was too loud. Ren Xiaosu also stood up. It seemed that his physical fitness had become stronger, so he didn't feel too cold even wearing a thin coat in this late autumn season. He kept holding the bone knife in his hand. Turning his head, he saw Yang Xiaojun also put his hand on the pistol he carried with him. Su Xianchu and his companions approached slowly, and suddenly a shadow jumped out of the pickup truck. Su Xianchu and his companions were shocked and opened fire without thinking. The shadow was suddenly hit by fierce gunfire in midair, and was hit by several bullets and flew backwards. There was another sound in the pickup truck, and Su Xianchu and his companions fired wildly into the pickup truck without thinking. Kaka! The sound of empty guns rang out. This group of private troops actually fired all the bullets in a round, and the entire pickup truck was full of holes. The pickup truck's fuel tank began to leak oil. I don't know who actually shot the fuel tank position, and a bullet hole was left on it. However, Ren Xiaosu was not worried that the car would blow up, because there was relevant knowledge in the advanced firearm skills. Unless you use incendiary bombs, it is difficult to directly shoot and blow up the fuel tank. Su Xianchu slowly approached and prepared to check the shadow that jumped out earlier, but he was a little angry after seeing it. The shadow that scared them turned out to be just a mouse that came to steal food. How come this rat has grown so big? Liu Bu was still in shock. I'm afraid it's as big as 2 human heads. Su Xianchu put aside his fear and looked inside the pickup truck. Inside was another rat, which had been beaten into a sieve. It turned out to be a false alarm. Everyone was too nervous. The slightest movement would make everyone suspicious. It's time to go back. If you don't go back, no one can withstand the huge mental pressure. But at this moment, Ren Xiaosu suddenly turned around and looked at the way they came from. He saw a silver wolf standing on the top of a mountain not far away and looking at them from a distance. It was the Wolf King. It's over. How come they came back so soon? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.